Alright. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Mr. Black. It's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks, Mr. White. Alright, so we just watched something.
Yes.
Now, for you to understand my viewpoint on it, I'm going to have to explain some history.
Okay.
It's my opinion, at least. So, what I think at least, is that from a long time ago, a lot of what, I'm not going to say the West in terms of all of the West, but portions of the West that don't like Islam try to isolate Islam from the Muslims.
Yes.
When the fourth Khalifa would have a question answer, people would always ask him, what's your response to fundamentalist Islam or fundamentalist Muslims? And he would always have the same answer. And it was a very good answer that.
Yeah.
He's like, fundamental Islam? There's only one type of Islam, and it's a fundamental Islam.
Yeah.
Everything else is just an innovation.
Yeah.
Islam is Islam is Islam. There's nothing else that's Islam. Now I'll ask you a question.
And
Go ahead.
I just want to say that kind of reminds me of back in, like when the 2001 attacks first happened, the World Trade Center attacks. People used to use a term. They use different terms. They use fundamental Islam. But nowadays, there's one term. Whatever the term. Actually, there are many different terms as well now. But people, I think, kind of moved away from fundamental Islam because fundamental Islam means the fundamentals. We're fundamentalists in that sense.
Yes, we are.
Because we follow the fundamentals of the religion. Okay, what was your question?
My question is, for the Holy Prophet ﷺ, what was Islam to him? What did he point to as Islam?
Something material or
Say it's something that exists, a noun. A noun.
like the Quran?
Quran, right?
But that's from God though.
That's from God, but it's the Quran.
Yeah.
It's the command of God, but that's what the Holy Prophet called Islam. Now, the Holy Prophet had other revelations, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, for him, Islam, the message is defined in the Quran. Now, think real hard what I'm about to say. For Muslims afterwards, what was the Quran to them?
In general, or I mean, it's supposed to be a book of guidance.
Book of guidance. I mean, in general, it's Islam, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I'm trying to get at. The Quran is Islam, but to them, what are the hadiths?
The hadiths. I mean, who are you talking about? Like
In general.
In general.
In general.
Hadiths are. I mean, it's supposed to be the sayings of the Holy Prophet ﷺ.
Now, can you define the hadiths alone as Islam?
No.
No.
I mean, actually, fundamentally, no.
No, because Islam is Islam unchanging?
Yes.
Is Islam perfect?
Yes.
Because the Holy Quran is a perfect book, right?
Right.
Now, the Holy Quran, can it have...
Islam is the most perfect, you could say, religion. Yeah.
Yes. The most perfect word of God.
Yeah.
That's what we Muslims believe.
That can be done for humans.
Yeah, for us here, at least on this planet.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I have to ask now is, the Quran has protection, right?
And this is in the Quran.
Yeah, that it's a protected book,
Yeah.
perfect book.
It says in the Quran, I'm the guardian over this book.
Yeah.
Something like this.
But the thing you have to realize now is this, is that with hadiths, they aren't protected.
No, they're actually compiled.
They're compiled.
Hundreds of years after. Hundreds?
No.
Yeah, within 100?
No, they're compiled pretty. Some of them were they were written down, but compilation it's a different situation. But what I'm trying to get, the premise here that I'm trying to get to is this: Islam is the Quran. For example, imagine like a tree, right? The entirety of the Quran is considered like the trunk. The hadiths are the branches, right? And the sunnah are the leaves.
Yeah, you can find the sunnah in the hadiths, but yeah.
So, in the sense that you have the Quran, that's a core of Islam. Then the sayings is the commentary of the lifestyle of the... Well, there was one Muslim, I guess it would be a teacher. that said that the Quran is the word of God, the Hadith is the Holy Prophet's indirect commentary of the Quran. Because the Holy Prophet was a walking, living Quran. That commentary was very important. The Hadiths are very important.
Because it
explains how to interpret the Quran.
Interpretation.
Now, the Quran alone can stand alone. The Quran can stand alone. If the Hadiths were completely destroyed, Islam is designed that the Quran can stand alone.
Yeah.
Now, why is this very important?
But then you would have to be, you really need to have
a connection with God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have, in Ahmadiyya, at least we believe that the door of revelation is open. Now, the thing is that what that means is that the very core teaching of Islam is found in the Quran, and the Hadith and Sunnah are supportive of the Quran. When you want to find some guidance, you start in the Quran, then you go to the Hadith, then you go to the Sunnah.
Like you're saying the Hadith, we don't know. We have a good idea, but some may not be completely accurate. Some are weak, some are strong, some are this, some are that. The rule is that as long as it does not contradict the Holy Quran.
Exactly.
Zura said this, and I think we also heard this recently.
Yeah.
That whether it's weak or strong, and even if it's weak, and you say, okay, what if the Holy Prophet ﷺ never said it? Well, I think that's just part of, having faith. If it doesn't contradict the Holy Quran, then... But that's the thing. The Holy Quran takes precedence.
Exactly. The reason why is even if something is... Let's say it's not weak or strong. Let's say it's in the middle ground. You don't have positive information whether it was said or not. Whether it was said or not said. Right?
Right.
Even if it was a weak one, even if it was something muttered to one person, at that point in time, you don't have an understanding if it was said or not said.
Right.
I'm talking about a full 100%. Even if many people say...
Even a strong one.
Even a strong one. Well, that's the thing. It's not... There's nothing in the Quran that says the Hadiths are... Protected.
By God.
Now, but that doesn't mean that, there are some Hadiths that are stronger. But the point is this. Is that a lot of what's happening today is a result of people trying to separate Islam from the Quran.
Yes.
I'll try to explain. You were watching that, right?
Yes.
What I was trying to get at is that those two in that video, now, if you're listening to this, you're not knowing who we're talking about. We're just watching two shills.
Shills?
Shills.
What does shills mean?
Shill means it's somebody you just pay to squawk like a bird.
Okay.
Not squawk like a bird's a metaphor for just basically say what you want. Tools. Two tools. And the way you can tell they're tools is that woman, I sent you...
Which one?
The
lighter skin?
The lighter skin one, right?
Well, I don't use names, but okay.
I would rather not. So I want people to focus on the
content.
And the content, exactly. Yeah. So the whole point is this: is that in
last time we used hood, but that was like a article.
That was a direct article where it was fine. But this time, I don't really want to give anybody else.
That's fine.
So the reason why it's important,
the lighter skin lady.
If you looked at all the videos that I sent, there was no message. There was no teachings. What she said is what should happen, but she didn't define what Islam is.
She was also criticizing, right?
No, that's the weird part. She wasn't criticizing it. There's a couple problems here. Okay, first off, let me try to explain. Me and you know that Islam is one thing and that Muslims are another.
Yes, but you're saying that people are trying to separate Muslims and Islam.
Yes, in the sense that...
So they're supposed to be the same.
I'll try to explain.
Okay.
Islam and Muslims are two different things that are linked.
Supposed to be linked.
Supposed to be linked.
Yeah.
Now, when you say you're Muslim, right? But then you're distant from Islam... Yeah. That's not really a Muslim then. You're just an Arab or an Indonesian or a Pakistani, right?
Or
whatever you want.
We can't call you disbeliever,
but that's the thing.
You're not following the teachings of the Holy Quran.
A Muslim. No, what I was trying to get at is that it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult to get to this. She was talking about a culture. She called the culture Muslim, And she said those people follow Islam. She says basically we have to reinterpret Islam. She's saying very flowery words. Very flowery, very nice sounding words. And for people who are a little bit misguided, they'll fall for it. Right?
She was calling a culture, she said these people are Muslims, so it must be something with their religion.
She didn't even say that.
But she didn't say it so directly.
She didn't say, she said indirectly. But the thing is this, is that I was watching someone do a little bit of a commentary on that.
It's kind of like what Hood said, but this is like the other way around. Well, look, let's see what I'm trying to say.
So what I'm trying to say is this, is that she would say that Islam is not inherently violent a religion, but the Muslims have corrupted Islam. This is the problem. This is the main problem. As Muslims, right, who follow Islam, who is the owner of Islam?
I mean, God is the...
God.
Yeah.
Who protects Islam?
God.
God. Right?
Okay.
If you want to reform Islam, who's in authority to do it?
The UN. I'm just kidding.
I have to turn the CD drive off. Like, go ahead. Who's in authority to do it? I can hear it.
God. Allah Ta'ala.
Right?
This has this supreme authority.
Supreme authority.
And man-made laws think that they're superior to God's laws sometimes. That's a whole different topic.
What she was trying to get at is that so it's a timeline. That's what I was trying to... When I started with the fundamentalist Islam talk, I was trying to tell you that there's been... It seemed like a plan. A slowly developing plan. And this is what I really want to get to you to focus on. That these are just pieces in a history of like propaganda that has been happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it is the jihad, but I'm trying to explain at least the small nuance of it. So in the beginning, what happened was you have people who represent who are just fundamentalist Muslims. So at first, right?
Fundamentalist meaning.
That's what they call them. They call them fundamentalists. I'm not saying that there's anything that's like fundamentalist Islam that's violent. That's not what I'm saying. That's what they define them as. These terrorists they define as fundamentalist Muslims.
I just want to make sure they're not. When you say fundamental, you're referring to the corrupted definition of fundamentalist.
Okay, I'll try to explain. I'll try to explain a little bit better. Okay,
because I just want to say that there usually in my mind there's overarching three categories. There's the liberal Muslims, which we know, the fundamental Muslims, which should be the moderates, and then the third category I call them the extremists.
In my eyes,
there's one extreme, one's liberal, one's the middle. In
my eyes, there are no categories. In my eyes, they're all distractions.
Yeah.
In Islam, as we understand as Ahmadis, there is a Khalifa, and he teaches us how to go on the right path for the time. One true Islam.
But I was saying, if you want to define the people that are nowadays, you can probably put them in these categories.
Do you want to know why they're in categories? You were talking about this before. In one household, there could be like a liberal Muslim, an extremist Muslim, a moderate... These are all categories. They're all distractions.
But even us... Okay. It's just right or wrong. How about that? Mm-hmm. Just right and wrong.
Right and wrong. There we go.
Within wrong, there's liberal and there's extremist.
There you go. Perfect. They're all in the wrong... That's what we're trying to get at. Is that today we're talking about the wrong kind of Islam.
Yes.
That's not Islam.
Right.
And the rightly guided type of Islam.
Yeah.
That the Ahmadis believe in.
Right.
And the reason why this is an issue is because, okay, Islam is a religion of authority. What that means is this. If you want to claim Islam is this, Islam is that, Islam is another thing, either it has to be in the Quran. Clearly in the Quran. And if you want to say that you have the understanding, right? Anyone can say that, even me can say we understand Islam. But we're never going to say we're an authority within Islam.
Yeah.
The only people who can say that are those who are given divine right to do so.
Yeah.
The prophets, the messengers, and their successors. Those are the only people with authority. That's why when people say that, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that. Oh, we should do this. Under whose authority are you doing this?
What are you talking about, like, in terms of what?
Say if somebody says we should reform Islam.
Oh, okay.
In what authority are you doing so?
This is also why sometimes, I mean, certain things you can say, like you know that are facts. You should do your namaz and whatever.
That's different, of course.
But certain things are a little bit more gray area. I mean, people can get it wrong. Like sometimes, like even like, I don't want to say anything, but people who are not the dramatically guided, that doesn't always mean what they say is 100% correct.
Exactly.
They're not trying to deceive you.
Of course.
But it's just.
Now, what I'm trying to get at is that remember that metaphor? Sure, I think it's an allegory or metaphor, I'm not entirely sure. Music is a good one. Nowadays in America, music is a very, very streamlined corporate process of getting people to buy whatever is popular.
Really?
So remember back in the 2000s, how they made boy bands and girl bands, stuff like that, and like pop stars?
Yeah.
The pop stars weren't too integrated. It was like an old technology that wasn't quite there yet. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
In the 70s, it wasn't quite there. I'm talking about for corporate exploitation.
Okay.
In the 70s, it wasn't quite there yet. It was started. I mean, you had some bands that were like, really influential upon people culture. You had some like rock bands of guys dressing like girls and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Those rock bands where the guys had like the long hair and the tight like pants and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the 70s style though. Well, I guess I don't know if it originated from them, but...
What I'm saying is that what happened was...
Bell bottoms and whatever.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the 70s, 80s rock bands with the guys with long hair.
Oh yeah, it's like tight pants.
Tight pants.
Black
and,
ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're talking about.
So it was an image that would sell. And then the 80s, you see this trend grow, and the 90s you see it grow, and in the 2000s, something happened where it exploded. And what I mean is that it's like a calculation. You get what I'm saying? You have somebody who'd sit down...
Communication methods have also become easier.
Much more. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is this. Before, there was a sloppiness in terms of anti-Muslim propaganda.
Oh, really?
A sloppiness. You'd have like a World Trade Center bombing, right? And after that, people would talk about fundamentalist Islam. Muslims are this, Muslims are that, Muslims are evil, 222 on the Muslims, right?
There was no concerted effort.
There was no unified effort.
There was no concerted unified effort.
Now it's different.
It's taken time. 10 years.
It's taken time, yes. And now it's like a science. Do you understand? It's such a strong presence that nowadays, what they have done, they've inadvertently have destroyed their own propaganda. And we'll go into that too. But what I'm trying to get is this. That lady you saw...
The light-skinned?
Yeah, the light-skinned. That was a middle ground thing. Because what it was, in the beginning, they had fundamentalist Muslims. And then out of those fundamentalist Muslims, they're like, we're going to control the narrative of how to talk about Islam. And when they control that narrative of how to talk about Islam, they're like, we're going to create people within the community of Muslims, right, that we're going to give money and spotlight and resources to represent Islam, even though they have no representation of Islam.
They have no authority.
They have no authority. And they have no teachings.
Yeah, I think I've seen this. It's kind of with that article too we discussed last time, was that before it was like, Islam bad, everything bad. But now what they're trying to do, they're trying to go on the inside, trying to say, no, we're non-biased people. This is just how it is. They say it very nicely, very in such a way that convinces you. I mean, if someone yells at you that you're wrong,
exactly,
you're not going to listen to it. But if someone says, lovingly, in a deceptive way, that you're wrong, and say, oh, okay.
So I'm trying to get to that point. You got to bear with me there. We're not there yet.
Okay, but you're saying that now they're trying to use a middle ground.
No, not even that. That's not what I'm trying to. What I'm trying to say is that that lady is a representation of a legion. What I mean is one of many, right? One of many instances in which Muslims are bashed. Even though she is supporting Islam, quote unquote, what she does is she says to the Muslims that are misguided, for example, say you're a moderate Muslim that doesn't really know anything about the Ahmadiyya movement, right? Okay. And you see something like that. You're like, what? She looks like a good woman. She's defending us. That's a good thing. In the end, that's even the worst. There's a lot worse things.
Yeah, she said that she was okay.
So, in the end, right? Oh, I mean, let's be clear about that. She's a lesbian. That's the joke about it. Because, it's like an oxymoron being... Anywho, in the end, what I'm trying to get at is that there's many episodes in which people are used as propaganda pieces to further an agenda. And I'm saying the overall agenda is this. You have to focus on the overall agenda. The agenda is to separate Muslims from the Quran. Separate Muslims from the Quran. Because Quran is Islam.
So it is separating Muslims from Islam. It is separating Muslims from Islam.
But the thing is, it's so convoluted right now. Everyone, when they think of Muslims and Islam, they're like, oh, it's the same thing. Islam is unchanging. Muslims change.
Yes.
Islam is unchanging. Muslims can change.
Muslims are not supposed to change fundamentally.
Did the promised Messiah come to reform Islam?
Not to reform it.
No. Did the promised Messiah come to reform the Muslims?
Yes.
There you go. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in Ahmadiyyat, is Imam Mahdi here to help the Muslims or help Islam? Islam can help itself.
Islam. It was basically saying God is helping himself.
Yeah, Islam can handle itself. God has Islam. God has promised Islam will always remain with humanity.
But like I was saying, Muslims are not supposed to change fundamentally.
Not supposed to.
If they do, then you can have someone from God to
reform them. That's what we believe.
And we also have mujaddids too, reformers.
Reformers,
century.
mujaddids too.
Yeah.
That's sent from God too.
Yeah.
Mujaddids are sent from God.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that you have to understand what these people try to say is that Muslims aren't bad.
Yeah, they say, oh, very nice people.
Islam is bad.
Yeah, that's...
But this is the thing. When you try to say, no, Islam's a really, really good religion, it's a religion of peace, then they start pointing to hadiths. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
They don't point to it, okay.
If they really wanted to talk about Islam, they would have to go under our turf. You know where our turf is?
The Quran.
The Quran. The Quran is our mountain to retreat to. The reason why is this. Anyone who reads that book understands that book is such a strong book. So, that book is so tightly wound that any attack on that book, anybody who understands the Quran can completely decimate the attack.
Yeah, who understands the Quran. Because I read somewhere, maybe in the commentary of the Quran, where people who want to find fault will find fault in the Holy Quran. But they can always be countered by someone who understands the Holy Quran.
You remember we were talking about Darbā last time?
Not on here, right?
Yeah, on here, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about Darbā.
Yes.
About the verse that allegedly says, and beat them for women.
Yeah, Daraba.
When I looked at, there's a corpus for the Quran.
Corpus?
Basically, you can search Arabic words and see them in any other places in the Quran. Right?
Yeah, we did that on from Jummah, right?
Yes. Now, the corpus for Daraba has two types. There's one smiting people. Smiting in terms of killing them.
I don't think you want to do that to your wife.
Of course, Quran doesn't promote murder. And
murder.
the other one
Murder.
is when it says go forth. And says, basically what it means is this. When Allah gives, this is what I was trying to get at. When Allah gives a revelation, right? It separates from him to the prophet, or him to the recipient. What they're saying, whenever they use that word, they always use the word go forth. And whatever it says it's always about something that God has revealed to the world, or God has given to the world.
Okay.
And in that sense, what it is that God basically Is that you?
Oh.
So what it means basically is that when something goes forth in the Quran, at least in the context of what I was reading, it meant that in a sense that God would be allowing to enter into our realm within a different unseen realm.
Okay.
Not physically, but I mean in the sense that we believe Allah is omnipresent, omnipotent. That's not what I'm saying. In the sense that from the unseen world it becomes manifest into our world. And he uses the word daraba.
It's like send it forth.
To send forth. To separate from himself into the seen world.
Okay.
That's all those verses would have that type of connotation to it.
Okay.
Right? But the thing was that for that one verse about women, you'd see that daraba would be used again. Now, there are two meanings. One is that either it's smiting them, which I don't think it is.
I know it isn't.
I know it isn't, because all the other verses would always talk about like war, in terms of war with people who are trying to kill you, and to smite them in that type of battle. And that in that type of sense, God would help you out. Now that's war. Obviously, those verses are dealing with
situations
in actual violence.
Right.
Now the thing is, in this context,
especially when in the rules of war, you're not allowed to kill women and children.
Exactly.
And so any person who wants to interpret it that way, you can counter it with that argument. Well, in war you wouldn't be able to kill a woman. Why would you want to kill a woman in this situation? If anybody counters,
there's no compulsion in religion.
Yeah, there's so many arguments.
Exactly. If somebody who understands the Quran would understand the history of the Quran, understand that the Quran basically specifies men have a responsibility for women, women have a responsibility for men. At that point in time, if your wife is disobedient, at that point in time, if it gets to that point in time, you are absolved and you can push them away in that sense.
Yeah, I have to read that part because I think there's like stage 1 is like
leave your beds and
and then stage 2
I forget. It's one is separate yourselves from them, and one's leave your bed, and then one is if nothing happens then. So
I think absolve means like even if you leave the bed, even if you I don't know, or I think the first one maybe tell them nicely that you're doing something. I don't know.
If you want, we can look at it.
Okay, but I just want to say that before that, even whatever the other steps were, even if you leave the bed, you can still maybe interact with them. You leave them in the bed, you still interact with them. You still treat them as if
they're part of the house.
Yeah, but absolving them, I think this is especially. In general, I feel like especially has an effect on women if you completely ignore them. You take out all emotions.
I think,
and even though it's hard for the man too, it's not that as a man's a robot, but if the woman could do something like this too. But if the man just does it, just kind of like totally just like as if the person's not even there anymore. But this is like before divorce.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to get is this:
that is like that kind of mental, I would say mental.
But it's not
mental chastisement.
What I'm saying. That word isn't. It's not connoting mental chastisement. What it connotes is a complete separation in terms of when you, for example, you ever watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yeah.
Remember when Jazz was always thrown out the house?
Will? Jazz. Okay.
Right, by Uncle Phil.
Right.
The whole joke about that is that he's out of the house. He's out of the chain of support. At that point in time, if you have a wife, right? And she's doing all these things, and she's using your resources, she's using your car, she's using your house, yet she's cheating on you with other men, right? And she's doing all this other stuff. At that point in time, you can't do talaq. I mean, it would be.
See, I don't understand.
It would be divorce.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that what would be the difference between that and divorce?
With that,
I mean, do you still have some kind of financial responsibility somehow?
Until the divorce, you do.
Okay.
You have to finalize. There's a whole process of divorce.
So that's a third step before divorce. Maybe you can go back. If you don't divorce, if you cast away, you can still go back into the marriage.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
At that point in time, you totally cut yourself. Like, I'm not giving you anything. You don't owe me anything now, and I'm not giving you anything. And I think
because the woman hasn't fulfilled her responsibility, why should the man fulfill his responsibility?
Now, this is the thing.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yes, and this is why it's important. Because in the Quran, when rules apply to men, they always apply to women too.
Yeah.
So women, those 3 stages in that verse apply to women then too. How women should treat her man if he does the same thing.
Yes.
In the very end, she absolves him. She's like, I'm not responsible for any of this. I'm not doing it. No, because in Islam, actually, it's different. Women are only in charge of one thing in Islam. are entitled to one thing. And in that point in time, she absolved, she's done with it. She doesn't have to...
But leaving the bed, you said step 2 or something. So what does step 3 mean?
What I'm saying is it completely absolve yourself from any responsibilities.
I think just leaving.
Just leaving in the sense that I'm gone.
Go to your parents' house or
whatever.
Be like,
you're not in charge of me anymore. I'm gone. I'm leaving that, and I'm not divorcing, but I'm leaving.
That's what they always say in this society: separation versus divorce.
Separation.
But maybe it doesn't mean the same way as they mean it. But
now, men, the way they separate from women is a physical separation. Men are in charge of a lot of the way men operate in this world. Is they use physical means of controlling their environment, like tools. Like, I'm talking about a car. They're not very emotional creatures. Men aren't very emotional creatures. Women, they're emotionally...
You're saying they're not very emotional relatively.
Relatively. But women are much more emotional. So men are much more emotionally dependent upon a woman than a woman is... A woman can be emotionally dominant over a man. A man can be physically dominant over a woman.
Okay.
At that point in time...
What do you mean by physically dominant or emotionally dominant?
A woman can be emotionally dominant over a man.
Meaning that, like, she has more emotion, or she has controlled the emotions?
She can control your emotions. She has more emotion. She understands emotions. Okay. She's in charge of your core emotion.
And then when you say physically
dependent, a man has the ability to do more labor.
And how does that relate to the woman?
Because a man's labor is what provides a woman for her resources. It's been this since the dawn of time.
No, but I'm trying to understand the interdependency here.
I'll be really
emotional dominance versus physical dominance.
I'll be really basic.
Emotional dominance is because you can control the man's emotions in that sense. And how does a man control the woman's physical?
I'll try to explain. Really simple. Okay? Man and women live in the jungle.
Okay.
Man goes around killing animals.
Okay.
Bring them home for the woman to eat.
All right.
Woman has emotional support for the man.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
One's physical.
Yes.
Men killing stuff, bringing food, resources. Right?
The resources part.
The resources part.
The physical dominance.
Physical dominance. Woman is emotional dominance.
Okay.
So, I mean, at that point in time, I know we're getting really off track, but the whole point is this.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because it will come around.
It'll come around. We have 3 hours. We might as well fill those 3 hours, right?
I mean, we have content, yeah.
So, we have content. So, the whole point is that the Quran is a deep book. And that's why in other verses it says that, men are guardians over the women. And in the sense that guardians in terms of a physical guardian, right?
This whole thing about
marriage is a coverage and go on.
Men being superior over women and like, I guess like the anti-Islam people like to point out to this verse, and then some I guess moderate Muslim, not even moderate, like maybe liberal.
Okay.
They say that no, they're equal. I mean, what is the truth behind that? Like, I mean, I suppose I know the truth. There are many verses that say that men and women are equal, and there are many different things that men and women have to do. It's all just reciprocated.
What I think is this.
So when it says that verse, which is what? What is that verse? Does it use the word superior? It says, surely we have made one of you superior over the other. I think that's the verse.
No,
right?
The thing is this.
But does that even refer to...
What type of superiority does it mean? What does it mean?
I mean, maybe it's just the superiority of this word or something physical. Right?
Are there adjectives that connote what the adjective's subject is in English?
Such as...
I am more tactical than you.
Okay.
My tactics, in our context of this community, tactical usually means, in a military sense, right? In close quarter combat situation of how to handle yourself, right?
Okay.
I'm superior. That's a very general superior.
Do you think you could relate to both? Meaning that one is superior in one respect and one is superior in the other?
I think it relates to superior in a physical respect. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, because that's how we perceive this world.
Yeah.
The noble Quran. I would have clicked that one.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
434, right? It says...
Honestly, I don't know if that's the right translation.
Men are in charge of women. That's not what I'm looking at. You don't... Okay, so keep talking. The reason why is this. I'm going to go to the corpus. I'm going to look at that word, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to find all instances in the Quran that word is used.
And you want to do this? Okay, that's fine.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, I don't know if I have any more thoughts, but what I was trying to say was that can you respond a little bit? Like, what do you think the light-skinned lady... I still don't understand what exactly was the light-skinned lady saying?
The whole purpose is this, and we'll go into the corpus Quran in a second. So...
Is this reliable?
It's word-by-word translation. It's reliable. I looked at it. It's Arabic. It's actual Arabic definitions, but the reason why it's reliable to me is this.
Is it compared to Al-Islam?
No, it's the reason why it's reliable is this, is that in Quran, right? If it uses the word many times, regardless, the translations are going to be used in context.
Right.
So even if it says, for example, Khatam an-Nabiyyin, right? They translate it as last prophet.
Oh, they do?
Not these guys.
Oh.
They translate it as a physical word itself, seal.
That's one big plus.
But the thing is this, is that you see that word, Khatam, and this was the other verse I was talking about. Khatam in all of Quran, right? You know how it says in the Quran, a set of seal over their eyes, ears, and...
Yeah, I think I've heard this. The Khatam in every other instance of the Holy Quran means seal.
Seal!
But when it comes to the Prophet, it means last.
Yeah, it means last apparently to them.
And it's the same exact.
It's the same exact
word, same exact conjugation, right?
Yes.
I don't know the conjugation, but same maybe.
They argue that the Qur'an's a little bit different, but it doesn't matter. It could have been in Qur'an in that sense could have been something completely different. Okay, 434, right?
So, I mean, I guess I didn't hear enough of that video to understand exactly what she was trying to say. I got the impression that it was saying troubles against Islam.
So,
what is this? Al-Rijalu Kamau. Let me read the Arabic. Let me read the transliteration. Kawamuna.
What does it say right there?
Protectors.
Right?
Okay.
What did it say before? Now look. Gavamuna. Protectors, custodians, steadfast. 3 times in the Quran.
That word is used.
All this word, the root of Gavamuna.
Corpus Quran. This is why, sometimes they say philosophy is important. Philosophy is important in the Holy Quran. I mean, philosophy is important in Islam. Like some people, mullahs who just know the verses or whatever, they don't understand philosophy.
Exactly. This checks the context of other verses that use the same word. So at that point in time, you can understand why that word's important in that verse. You see these 3 verses, right?
Yeah.
In the very first translation we saw, it says men are superior to women. Pretty much. Men are in charge of women.
Okay.
In the very first translation, right?
Yeah, but what I was saying was that, and then the philosophers. But the problem is that you can't just only have like memorization of the Holy Quran or just philosophy. You need both, because sometimes for the people who memorize, the mullahs who memorize, they don't have philosophy. They don't act upon their words. The philosophers, you say they're very good. They understand Islam, but the question is that how can you really understand Islam if you don't know the Quran, right? You need the Quran to understand Islam. You can't just make up your own theories.
Exactly.
Even no matter how good they sound.
Exactly.
That's why it's important. This is why maybe we used to say, like, okay, memorizing the Holy Quran is better if I had one or the other, I'd rather understand Islam, but you need the Quran, and it's better to memorize it so you can understand what the Quran is and what Islam is saying, what the Quran is saying.
Yes.
And then you can make your philosophy based on the Holy Quran.
Exactly. So this is the second time we see Kavamuna in the Quran. Now I'm going to read. It starts from the very top. It says, O you who believe, be custodians of justice as witnesses to Allah.
Be custodians of justice as witnesses to Allah.
Now does that mean that you guard over justice? Does that mean you're superior over justice? You're superior. Does that have anything to do with superior? Or does that have to do with duty?
It's custodians of justice.
In that way,
as witnesses to Allah.
Does this at all connote superiority? This word now in this context?
No.
No, right?
Oh, you're just saying. Is it referring to men or is it referring to men as humans?
Humans.
Okay, humans.
Does this connote superiority?
No.
In this sentence, no. The word doesn't consider. Now let's look at the third example.
You're just telling them be custodians of justice as witnesses to Allah. I don't know what the other context is, but
now last one's steadfast. 585. Alright, so 5 verse 8.
That's why I was saying that, like you say, memorizing the Holy Quran. Memorizing the Holy Quran is important because
it lets you at least have an index.
Yeah, and you, at all times, rather than having to look at something
like
up.
We are right now.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Eventually, memory of Holy Quran will. If you in the future, if you have something like right on your fingertips, like in your eyeglasses, you can like check something up instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say memorization.
So look here.
Still good.
Look here. Steadfast is the word now. O you who believe, be steadfast for Allah as witnesses in justice. Now this is unique because
justice now means.
This is a different verse, completely different verse.
Yeah.
But I'm saying at first it was justice custodians of justice. Steadfast for Allah.
As witnesses.
Does it say you're in charge of Allah? Does it say you're protecting Allah? No. Does it say you're in charge of justice? Who's in charge of justice in Islam?
The custodians of justice.
Custodians. You have a duty. That's the point of the verse. If you want to know about the verse's connotations, and you want to make what's it called, interpretations of the verse, look at the Quran. The Quran is a linked book.
No, wait. What about that verse that was saying superior over...
It didn't say superior.
Wait, which verse was that? The custodians?
That was a... I'll show you.
Wait, where is that? What verse is that in the Quran? The one that says... I think there's only one.
Well, that's the verse right there. And he used this word, watch.
Wait, is there... Wait, how do you know it was this word?
Because this lets you pick the word itself. And I know the verse, too.
No, you know the verse, but how do you know it was this verse and this word in the verse?
Because it has split word translation each word.
In this thing? In
yes,
this system?
yes, in this system. Okay. So look at that. Protectors, custodians, steadfast. The custodians are protecting justice. You're being steadfast for Allah. Now the thing is, does this connote that you are in charge of the situation, or that you are on duty for the situation?
Duty.
You're on duty. So, for example, if you're doing traffic duty, you're custodian of traffic duty, right?
Custodian.
You're protector of traffic duty. Does that mean that you own the traffic?
Yeah. What does custodian actually mean? Custodian means you're not in charge, but, well...
You're given authority to protect.
You're given authority
to maintain.
To handle the situation.
Exactly.
You're a custodian. Custodian doesn't mean you're in charge, necessarily. It means you've been given the authority from God.
Custodians, if you're a custodian nowadays in America, right? Are you in charge of the building you're cleaning?
You're just taking care of the building.
Taking care of it.
Or if you're, if you say, do they say custodians of children, or do they say guardians?
Guardians.
Guardians, okay.
Custodian, steadfast. So what it honestly means to me...
Wait, there's only one verse in the Quran that says that, right? Men are, supposedly, the men are superior to women?
Yes,
only one.
Yes.
And that verse is this Qawamuna.
Qawamuna.
And in that verse, in this translation, it says protectors.
Yes.
Chapter 4, verse 32. What's the word number 2 mean?
That's the second word.
Okay, second word.
So if we go there,
it
right?
It might be verse 35 in our Quran, but...
Because we count Bismillah ar-Rahman because it's actually a verse.
Yeah.
So for example, look. Men are in charge of women.
Okay.
It says it there in Sahih International. In the split word translation, completely different.
But this is the same website.
I know. That's why even this, they say seal. They say last prophet, even though the split word translation says seal.
Well, why do they do that?
Because what a lot of non-Ahmadis do nowadays, they translate the Quran with their own interpretation within the verses.
But then who's doing these split words?
When you actually translate the split word, it's a different meaning.
Okay. They
do their own... So, for example, the primary meaning is... Can you read it off? What is it? Where is it? 434. The primary meaning is what?
Protectors.
Protectors, right? But when they do it, they say, okay,
when
they're like...
all together, they say in charge?
In charge.
That's kind of like extrapolating.
It is extrapolating.
You know what I mean? Like yes, you know how sometimes people extrapolate? Like, yes, it could mean that, but it doesn't have to mean that.
Exactly.
It could mean something else. It could mean... Like, sometimes you say, well, you know, if this person does this, that means that automatically means this. Well, okay, yes, maybe it does automatically mean that, but just stick to what the person said, because exactly how he said it, because people... have different interpretations, have different, understandings, and even if you say exactly what the person said, people can still interpret it differently. But at least you're saying exactly what the thing said, like a hadith is supposed to be.
Exactly.
But
Now look, we're gonna go to Al-Islam. I want to see the translation there. Okay.
This is now. So right now we have it's supposed to be protectors over women.
Well, it could be that,
it could be that. It doesn't mean that. It could be in charge of women in terms of protecting them, which means that you provide for them, you give them protection, you give them the resources. Might be verse 35, yeah.
Yeah, it's 35. I gotta get down here and... Okay. Here it is.
That's kind of weird that in the same website they contradict each other.
Guardians.
And that's similar to protectors.
Protector. It's in English. It's a very similar word.
Wait, but what was custodians?
Now, we can even go deeper into this. Do you know that?
Wait. Kawamuna... Hold on. Kawamuna was protectors, right?
Yes.
What was custodian of justice?
I think it was Minna.
That's a different word.
It was the same root word.
Okay.
It's a different way of saying it.
Okay.
Like it's saying technical and technically. Or technicality.
Or like there's another word that's really common, like donut, not something else, but another adjective, like conscientiously or consciously. I don't know. No, that's something else.
All right, men are guardians over women. Now the thing is that important words. Guardians derive from, which means he stood. They say he tended or took care of it or him. Means he maintained the orphan, means he undertook the maintenance of the woman, which means he managed the affairs, he protected her, or became her guardian.
Oh, so even the word protected is in here too?
Yes. Pronoun, the next word, means he set the thing right, or made it straight or even. Therefore, means manage the affairs well, a ruler or governor, or one's position, issue orders.
Meaning that he's in charge of his household. He's the head of family.
He's there specifically on duty.
He's on duty.
On duty, that's what it is.
But wait, what does it say over here?
What are you trying to look at?
Men are guardians over women because Allah has made the one of them to excel the other. I think that's the superior part.
Okay, let's try that.
Okay. Wait, notice what it says, and because they spend because they spend the wealth. So we're just one of those who are beaten regardless of their husband with Allah's protection.
Okay, so let's look at that. Excel.
Who fear being admonish them. Okay, and here's the daraba part too. Admonish them, leave them alone in their beds. That's not... okay, admonish them is number 1, which means tell them nicely or
all
whatever.
Right.
Number 2 is leave them alone in their beds. And number 3 is chastise them, which is daraba. Here, is this the one? Darebu.
Yeah, darebu. Yeah. Vadrebu.
Okay. Then if they obey you, seek not obey against them. I mean, don't divorce them, maybe? I don't know. Surely Allah is the high and the great.
Yeah, so at that point in time, if it solves the situation, then you don't have to divorce them. But at the same time, you are absolved of them. You'd be like, no, we're done. You separate from me right now.
That's a chastisement.
That's a chastisement. And now the funny thing is, listen very carefully. This is the funny thing I just realized. In the beginning, spend of their wealth.
Because they has made the one of them to excel the other because these men spend of their wealth.
Think about that.
In terms of this world, physical world.
In terms of this physical... Now look, let's look at the excel part. And let's compare that to other words in the Quran.
Because this is the part we're actually focusing on. This was also good too, but this is the part that actually says... People argue that,
excel.
Men are superior.
Now the thing is, me and you...
Superior. This is the part, the excel part.
Now,
I don't know what word that
excel
is.
in what context? Yeah. They're saying about making money.
They're saying, yeah, that's the part. This is how people take it out of context.
Acquiring wealth, acquiring resources.
It says in the same exact verse that it only... Well, it says because of wealth. That's what it means excel. It doesn't say excel in terms of spirituality.
Yes, of course. It doesn't. Now the thing is this. Let's go here. Let's go back. Let's go back to that verse and find excel in the Quran and other places.
The corpus?
Yes. 434 is in the end, wasn't it? No.
And because some of them...
The men are protections of women because...
Allah has bestowed some over others.
Some of them over others.
Because they spend from their wealth.
It just says bestow, some of them over. It doesn't say excel.
Okay. It's probably the word bestow then?
No, it's probably the word over.
Allah. What's bestow? Has made them... I guess made is bestow, so Allah is over, maybe. Superior over others. And some of them... So...
What's a preposition is pre, right? Like prepare. Pre is a preposition of pair, right? And that
the preposition is like over, under, at, or it's a conjunction. But like Nothing modifies and that's the adjective.
So others, badin.
That doesn't mean excel, does it? How about bestow?
So does it say bestow?
Has bestowed. Well,
Fazila.
does it mean
Preferred,
superior?
preferred.
Here we go. Exceed.
Favored, favored, preferred.
So I think this is the word that means exceed.
Okay.
Maybe. Bestow right here. Exceeded. We call it exceed. We preferred you. Not equal to lose a meaning at home.
Wait a second.
Oh, yeah.
Preference.
It's different from
Excel. It's different than bestow. Prefer. Bestow. Choose.
exceed. Made superior.
It didn't say made superior.
No, I'm saying these are all
different.
It's all extrapolations, I could say.
But in
you
this,
could say, "Oh, because I prefer you." If you're an authority, I prefer this guy. Therefore, and then the people underneath say, "Oh, well, he must be superior."
this doesn't say.
That's just extrapolation.
That's an extrapolation of superiority. In this verse that we're reading here, what it says is that the word that is used here is preferred. Allah has preferred the mujahideen through their wealth and their lives over those who remain behind. By degrees.
It even says how they prefer. It doesn't say prefer in terms of spirituality. At least not. It doesn't seem like it says by their wealth and their lives who remain behind. By degrees. I don't know what degrees means, a lot or a little. Probably means a lot to both. And to both, Allah's promised the best reward.
Okay, so it means Allah has chosen.
But Allah's preferred the mujahideen over those who remain.
Now let's look at the other one. Okay. What about here?
It's kind of like a preference. Like when you're traveling, I don't know if it's a preference. Like I prefer. It says I prefer you not to do the whole namaz. But we say that, well, if it's there, then within the land or neighboring place. We make exceed quality of fruit.
Quality of is also an extrapolation that
Exceed other than fruit.
So the thing is that exceed, but in what context are they talking about exceeding? In what context is it preferring?
There's so many different interpretations. Well, in that particular verse, in this corpus, it says bestowed, right?
Yeah, but I'm looking at the. So I think I figured it out. So preferred in terms of one being chosen over another.
I'm gonna look back at that thing again. One more time, man and woman, because Allah has made one of them to excel the other, because men are guardians over women, one, because it's made them to excel it, and because they spend of their wealth, which means they're intertwined.
Yes, why would he mention both at the same time?
Yeah. Men are guardians because they spend their wealth, and has made them excel the other. But in what respect? In terms of resources, in terms of wealth?
Okay, this is the other issue too. When we were looking at that, there are a lot of joins that are in different places. So, for example, in the English understanding, right, it says Allah has made one of them excel the other, comma. That means that idea has been finished in English, at least, right?
Finished?
In English.
Okay.
In English.
I see.
But it's still linked to the next idea.
It says,
and because
it's probably just a wow
spend of their,
and like over there means like and, you know what I mean? Like
it means and additionally.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah. It doesn't mean like and I'm going to the store. It just means in addition. Wa is not like I mean wa means and, but it's not. I don't think. We're no scholars in Arabic, but I feel like wa just means also. It doesn't necessarily mean like
wa can
and.
Additionally, also and could also mean in the sense that you're joining the two ideas. I think there's a reason why both of these are listed at one time.
Has to be a reason why.
Why didn't it say authority in the sense that that one I guess in a physical sense, it would be. So okay, this is my premise.
Yeah, it wouldn't say like, oh, and because men are more righteous. It doesn't say anything like that. It just says men are guarding the women because Allah has made the one of them to sell the other, and because they spend their wealth.
Now this is the thing I was trying to get at.
Spending their wealth and
the preference, the excelling, the preference,
excelling part,
the bestowed
are linked through the part that they're guardians over women.
So they're guardians over women. It says Allah is preferred in the sense of preference, not because they were better, that because of their duty. Think about it. It doesn't say Allah says that one is inherently better over another.
No.
Preference doesn't mean better.
No.
For example, you can prefer using one tool for a job rather than another. Instead of hammering the wall with a crowbar, you prefer to use a hammer. Do you get what I'm saying?
Or clean the snow with a crowbar.
You prefer to use a snow shovel. But the reason why there's a preference is listed right in the same verse.
Yeah, because I was about to say, like, I think that when I was first reading it, I missed the word "and." I said, "Oh, because spend the wealth." That's why they excel the other.
That's why they prefer.
Because they spend of their wealth, they excel the other.
But this is the thing.
In the sense that they're supposed to be the providers.
So in the very beginning, if we link all three, we figure it out.
Better at that.
If you link all three, you figure it out very easily. The very beginning part was that men are duty over women to maintain them, right?
Protectors.
To protect them, right? And then the second part is saying that they excel, they were preferred. They were preferred because they could spend out of their money. Listen very carefully before we go on. Men and women, I told you about, one physically dominates, one emotionally dominates. I said this even before this whole analysis. The men who physically dominate, right? They are out there doing the work, the hard labor. That's what they're designed for. Their bodies are designed for that labor, right? That struggle. And out of that struggle, they're able to become those on duty for those who are women. Doesn't mean that they're better than them.
In every single respect.
It says in that preference, in terms of maintaining the household's integrity as a physical location, they are in charge. Now, does it say that men are in charge of all affairs in terms of the way women should act and everything else? No, it says that men are in charge in terms of the manifestation of a physical presence. Wealth. And the funny thing is, in Quran, it says wealth. People think that means money. There's no concept of money in Quran, if you ever noticed that.
He says, give me some dinars.
It doesn't ever say that. In terms of wealth, resources. Resources come out of labor. Come out of trade. Come out of interaction.
If you had your own farm, let's say, and you could provide for yourself.
Now, I'm confident.
You could provide for the resource by, I don't know, what do you have
tilling the land.
To maintain your farm. You get resources from the farm.
Mm-hmm.
That's your wealth. And that's how you provide for the family.
Exactly.
And you provide for the woman.
Now let's read that commentary. Because if you ever thought, the first part was that you're on duty, and the second part is that you are on duty to protect as a governor. Now a real governor, is a governor the same thing as a monarch?
No. See, the way we have the way we have governors in the United States, it means he's in charge. He's the big shot. But what does govern actually mean? Govern. I just govern the affairs. You're
custodian for the people.
Yeah.
You're not there to be. You're not supposed to be corrupt. You're not supposed to usurp others people's rights. You are a representative of the people.
You could maybe say that you interpret the law in the best way.
You don't even, as a governor, you're not even in charge of the law either.
You're just govern. You just manage the affairs.
Exactly. You manage the affairs. A very, very, very civilized way of approaching it. You manage the affairs.
Just like you could say a custodian of a building manages the affairs of the building.
Exactly.
The physical affairs.
Does he own the building?
No. That's how you say.
Is the governor better than what he's governing?
No.
But he was preferred in terms of he was chosen for the job.
That's how you say the mayor goes around, this is my city.
It's not supposed to be like that.
Or the sheriff goes around, this is my town.
That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the sheriff and all these public servants, that's what they are. That's a very good way of putting it. They're public servants. Why are they public servants? Because they're being paid by the people through their taxes. They're being paid by the people.
They're servants.
They're public servants.
Exactly.
They're public servants. And leaders are... I feel like in the United States, we have the actual system in its original form, or even we still know how to do it. It has very good principles.
Yes, it does.
Fundamentals are very good.
Yeah.
I mean, still they're very good now, but I'm saying people may think about it in a different way. Oh, people now think the governor is a big shot, or the sheriff is the guy in charge, and they're all public servants.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be there for the people.
Exactly.
And by the people. I'm sounding American now.
Now you are American.
Yeah, like that.
Let's read the commentary, because I can guarantee it probably somewhat talks about.
I don't know if that's anything African.
I didn't see it either. So
it's like, yeah, you figure it out. Actually, guardian therefore manages affairs. Oh, I did.
does it say manage affairs there?
A ruler or governor. I probably got it from here, in the back of my mind.
All right, the rest of the commentary is a long one. This is one of the longer. All right, reasons why man has been the head of the family. His superior mental, physical powers.
Wait, where is this? Oh, wait, what was that? The other one you just showed me.
Oh, that was just the word translations.
Is this the next page?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is the commentary. A, his superior mental and physical powers. Now, this is the thing. The commentator has said mental, but anywhere in there does it say mental power? In the verse. No. But we can agree with physical power.
Physical.
The commentator has assumed that there's mental power.
Maybe he was trying to say, because we could say some of this commentary maybe on the second Khalifa, maybe you're trying to say...
No, it's Shir Ali.
But like, didn't get it from the second Khalifa, parts of it? Tafsir al-Khabir, didn't get it from Tafsir al-Khabir?
If you want to get Tafsir, if you want to break that out...
I don't know how we do so.
Well, I'll give you an explanation.
But maybe I'm just saying, maybe the reason he's saying mental is mental in terms of his physical activity.
In terms of what he does for a breadwinner.
Yeah.
See, the thing is...
he's only... Okay, he has physical... I mean, he can... Let's say some guy who does dig the dirt.
Right.
Okay? But he's mentally, he knows the best way to dig the dirt.
Because he's a laborer, in that sense.
He may not be the best way to... He may not have the best mental capacity to raise a child. I'm not saying... I'm just saying in a very fundamental way. Mm-hmm. He has the best mindset to dig the dirt. He knows the best way to do something physical.
Yes.
Maybe that's what that's what they're trying to say.
And bring the better
not
maintain...
not mental superiority all over.
All right. And then he links that. Now, the thing is, he even links that to that. As a breadwinner and maintainer of the family, it is neutral and fair. He who earns and supplies the money should have the final say in disposable affairs. The word...
This may have some culture.
Actually, no. It's just the first paragraph.
Like, just like if you shovel snow, you may find out the best way to shovel the snow, the most efficient way to shovel the snow, and that requires mental work or whatever.
I think there might be a translation of what we're talking about. I'm interested in seeing that translation, because I know that the thing about the...
I think this is, and I also want to do that. I if there is an interpretation of the Quran that means something, I don't want to try to be like a liberal Muslim, try to water it down just because it fits with the Western ideals. At the same time, I don't want to be an extremist Muslim who tries to make it super conservative. Not even conservative, super whatever the other extreme, super extreme.
Yeah, Islam is conservative by nature. You mean
just
super violent?
Yeah, or super violent.
Because that's the only thing they are, violent. It's only
super violent, super extreme, just to fit their needs. We want to find the right answer, whether it may be agreeable with Western ideals, whether it may be agreeable to the other side of it, whatever. It doesn't matter who it agrees with. What matters is that it's the right answer.
Same thing.
Wait, how is this one translated? Because this one's a different translator.
This is just a short translation.
But I don't know how it's translated, because this translator is a little bit different.
But he takes the same paragraph that the previous guy did.
What does he say in the verse? Men, he uses the word same excel, okay. Sometimes he changes words around.
Give me one moment. Let me just check one thing.
So far, in summary, just to recap, I feel like we've said men are protectors or guardians over women, because even the order matters. You can't just say because they spent their wealth. You got to say first because they made excel over others, and because they spend of their wealth. And why and how they excel over others, maybe in terms of their wealth, being the breadwinner, and how to become the breadwinner. Or it is kind of a...
What?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking in my head that I really want to see the second Khalifa's commentary.
Surah Khabir?
Yeah.
It's Urdu though.
Who do we know that can read Urdu?
Parents.
Do you have it?
Yeah. Because I just want to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
From I think anything, but I want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
That the 5 commentary Holy Quran was based on.
Alright, give us 2 minutes. Alright, that was a long break. So, you wanted the second Khalifa's commentary.
Yes, I was saying that the 5 volume is based on the second Khalifa's commentary.
Yep.
I believe, and as well as the short commentary as some aspects of the second Khalifa's short commentary.
Yep.
And we found out that...
Doesn't say anything about men being mentally superior.
Did we mention that? Okay, we did mention that.
Yeah, we did.
But the Tafsir Khabir does not have Surah Al-Nisa, as well as Surah Al-Imran, as well as from chapters 3 to 9, I believe, are not in there, even on alislam.org, for some reason.
Yeah, it's either they weren't finished, or there might be a version that hasn't been compiled yet. One of the two. Can I see the Quran for a second?
So in the long commentary, in the English, it says something about mental capacity, where in the Tafsir Sagir by the second Khalifa,
in Urdu,
and by his fourth Khalifa, we had my mom read it. There was no
no mention,
no mental. It was only said something about. It only said something about being the breadwinner and like
guide her to the straight path.
Right.
Now, me and you've gone through for the past 2 hours.
One verse.
One aspect of the verse. And we're going to go. So,
you just scratch the surface.
Let me see your topic for a second. I actually have to read. A'udhu billahi shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ar-rijalu kavvamuna. So kavvamuna, right? We determine that as guardians, but also custodians.
And in the Quran is translated. This Quran is translated as
guardians,
okay,
protectors.
Because it said custodians or protectors.
And what that means is protector, but not somebody who is a dictator. A governor doesn't dictate over people's lives. A governor protects the law that other people have created and enforces them.
Manages the affairs.
Okay.
It even says that in a long commentary. Manages the affairs. The governor.
Al-Nisa'i, of women, bima fazlallahu ba'dahum ala ba'din. Ala ba'dim wa bima anfaku min amwalihim. So basically Allah has made one of these to excel the other, and because they men spend out of their wealth. Now the thing is this, we discovered that Allah has made one of them excel. When they use the word excel, right, doesn't mean excel in terms of more important or better. We learned it was preferred.
Yes, preferred or even
the choice.
Right.
But the thing is, it's based upon the next idea, which this entire sentence is separated by a comma here in English, but in Arabic, it's linking the ideas together. Excel because they, which are the men, spend out of their wealth. So excel in terms of for the duty of providing resources.
For the duty of providing resources, men excel.
Men are preferred. Men are chosen.
Men are preferred over women. And when they do this, when they fulfill their duty, they're preferred because they may have better capabilities of doing it.
They are no. It doesn't say anything about capability.
No,
it's showing preference in terms of ability to carry out the task in the household. And yes,
for this duty of what?
Of providing resources to the household.
For this duty of providing resources to the household, they are preferred, and they have the
All right. Now notice.
You said provide wealth.
Wealth, which is resources, which in a very, 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 very agricultural society is to till the earth and get resources from the earth itself. So they're providers, breadwinners. Now the thing is, it goes on. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ Hafiza. So we were talking about that too. That's the secrets, right?
Regarding the secrets.
Okay, so
regarding the secrets.
غَيْبِ لِلْغَيْبِ طُلْ لِلْغَيْبِ. So basically, this was the other part saying. So men are the physical breadwinners. They are the physical guardians, right? And for women, it says women are the. So it says, so virtuous women are those who are obedient and guard the secrets of their husbands with Allah's protection. When we looked at the Arabic for this, it said guardian means guardian. Guardian actually means guardian. The first word they use guardian, but the thing is guardian is not the primary word that's chosen. The guardian, it could mean other things. Okay. But the second word only means guardian.
Okay.
So the first one means custodian in terms of guardian affairs as a governor, right? Somebody who maintains. The second one, it means somebody who actually guards, protects the unseen. It doesn't say anything about secrets as much as the unseen. Now the thing is with men, right? We were talking about this before. They guard the physical.
Wait, it says, what does it say? Guard the secrets or guards the
secrets? No, it says guards the secrets of their husbands. But the thing is, ghaib is the word they use for secrets.
Okay.
Ghaib means unseen.
Ghaib can mean like hidden.
Hidden. Guard the hidden attributes of their husbands. We were talking about before that men are emotionally hidden.
In public.
In public. In private, that's when they open up. Women are physically...
They will open up to their wives, let's say.
And women are physically introverted. Right?
Yes.
In the sense that men help them with their physical needs. Say providing resources, food, clothing...
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. Men, they physically till the earth. Women are not designed the same way. And I can say this confidently. Women don't have the testosterone to build the muscle mass to do the same amount of manual labor men can. Simple. That's science. It's nothing. There's nothing. No way of debating that.
That's why I mean. That's what I was trying to say was that for this specific duty of providing resources, men have been given better ability or are better able to do it.
Yes.
For this, not for mental, not for complete some not for some mental project, not for some spiritual project, but for this specific duty of providing resources to the household, they quote unquote are preferred.
Yes, are chosen.
Excel.
Like in a toolbox, you choose the right tool. Men are that tool to be utilized for labor. And just like in a toolbox, women, the virtuous women, the women that are closest to Allah, are those who are the guardians of the men's unseen nature, which is their emotional state.
Yes, women can, provide for the household, but they're not the preferred. And yes, men can, what's the other one? Be emotional.
Be secrets of the guardians of the unseen.
Woman, but it's just not preferred.
It's not preferred. Men, that's not the way they're designed.
Right.
Men are not designed to... Men are emotionally very, very, very insensitive in that sense. They have to be. It's just the way men are. If men were emotional about everything that happens, if men were emotionally sensitive to everything, they couldn't do the things that they needed to do in, let's say, a wild environment. An environment that's uncompromising.
They get distracted.
They could get exactly distracted in that sense. But you need people who can do both. So in combining the two, you have people cover each other's weaknesses. All right.
No, but there is somewhere else in the Holy Quran that says, and a man is a cover for the woman, and a woman is a cover.
That's what I was exactly what I was saying. They cover each other's weaknesses.
Oh, one's physical, one's
emotional.
Okay, right.
With men, it's the unseen. With women, it's the physical, seen thing. They can't physically... Men are physically more... So, okay, going on.
And the last one was about... Daraba.
So, qanitatun hafizatun. Hafizatun means guardian. Tul lil ghayb, unseen. Bima hafizallahu. Guard the secrets of their husband with Allah's protection.
Meaning to have Allah's help if they want to do it. Right.
Give me a second. With Allah's protection.
They guard the secrets with Allah's protection.
What does Allah's protection? That it sounds like it's describing a noun. That's not. It's not just saying Allah's protection. Like for example, you know how you talk about the what's it called? The mercy of Allah.
Yeah.
And then we talk about Holy Prophet was a mercy sent to mankind. So if you say the mercy sent to mankind, we're referring to the Holy Prophet, right?
Right.
In this Allah's protection, I guess that's one thing we didn't look at.
I guess. Yeah, I'm almost getting a thought that perhaps like okay,
Hafiz Quran.
no matter what, it will.
Hafiz Quran. What does that mean?
The secrets will be protected, or perhaps even if the woman at least tries, then the God will take care of the rest. Will help her out.
Think about it. It could be something very it could be basically what it says is that women will guard the unseen of their husbands with God's protection. God's protection could mean many things. It could be that God's protection for chastity, which is nikah, which is marriage, which we were talking about before, consorting, men and women consorting together, could be what that the protection they're discussing. They talk about marriage as the fortress of chastity in the commentary of the Holy Quran. Do you know that?
What?
Marriage is the fortress of chastity.
Okay.
Marriage is a protection that we give to chastity.
Yeah, and if a woman has extramarital affairs, they're not really guarding the emotional.
We didn't get there yet. We're still stick on this first.
Well, what are you saying? Won't guard the emotional aspects of man.
When they consort, we're talking about basically before we were brainstorming this. Men and women, when they consort, scientifically speaking, you boost oxytocin, which is a bonding neurotransmitter that allows people to become more emotionally attached to one another.
Even when two people hug each other, whether the same gender or the different gender, you get that boost of oxytocin.
Yes.
But when you do opposite gender, you get you do get a bigger boost.
You get a lot bigger boost.
Not that I speak to experience.
Now, Vallati Nahafuna Nushuzahunna. Nushuz. So I remember a missionary telling us about this, that basically Nushuz means disobedience, but not the regular type of disobedience. Like disloyal. Like this woman's not loyal, meaning that she's sleeping around.
So going back to extramarital affairs, you're not guarding the secrets of your husband because you emotionally betrayed.
Yeah, and what it says here is that and for those in part who fear disobedience. So now it's not saying I didn't cook your eggs for you. It's not that I didn't make a chai. It means that I'm sleeping with other men. That's what it means.
That's what the missionary Islam said.
That's also I was looking at the commentary from other Arabic. Nashuz is a very, very specific type of disobedience. That means, for example, in English you say you're not, you lack. What does it say? Fidelity or? What does it say?
Infidelity.
Infidelity also means you're disloyal to your husband. I mean, your spouse. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes you could, even in the old times, if you used the word disloyal, people knew what that meant.
Yeah.
Maybe in the 1900s, disloyal meant this.
Okay, where do I stop?
If you fear disobedience or disloyalty, you have three part rectification.
Faizuhunna wahjuruhunna fil mazaji'i wadribuhunna. Okay, so basically, admonish them, leave them alone in their beds, and chastise them. So we're talking about this a lot, and this is where the crux of this conversation is going to go. One, if a woman's being disloyal and sleeping with other men, we have to specify a few things. In Islam,
now, okay, there may be different degrees. Like if someone was like sleeping around,
flirting, sleeping,
yeah,
and
like
physically touching other men.
If a woman's sleeping around, you would the first step be okay? Don't do that. I mean,
for example, here we go.
Flirting, maybe.
Here we go. If a woman's talking to other men and she's flirting with them,
okay,
and she has her hand on their shoulder. At that point in time, you're like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Please, not don't do that. No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Serious about it, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right? At that point in time, if she goes on and she starts, say, hugging other men, right?
Kissing. Hugging/kissing.
So, no, I'm talking about very, very strict. I'm talking about physically what's called available to other men.
Okay.
At that point in time, that's when you separate yourself from the bed. Say that, look, I'm not going to consort with you. Because even then, that's actually a very, very, if you think about it, that's a very, very good piece of advice. Why? If a woman's in a society where men have sexually transmitted diseases, and she's with other men, right?
We're not there yet, but that's number 3.
No, even then, if she kisses a man who has, like, say, hepatitis or something, at that point in time, it would be advisable to separate beds from them.
For your own health. And the woman. Yeah, for your own health.
For your own health.
If you're the man.
Now, the thing is this, is that, say it's getting to that point. You come in danger. Maybe it doesn't happen yet. Maybe it gets to that point. At the last point where you have is women that are sleeping with other men. And at that point in time, it's a physical punishment. Now, what we were talking about before, in a society that's, let's just say, when we were reading the Tafsir Sagir, that's the only book that had Nisa's commentary from the second Khalifa that we could find. We looked at Kabir, didn't have it.
And the fourth Khalifa's translation.
We looked at the fourth Khalifa's translation too. The one in Sagir was written from it was early
40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Maybe before.
So it was written at a time in which, in a lot of these cultures, women, it would be unheard of women going around sleeping with other men. It would be something so shocking to see that happen that at that point in time, yes, a man would...
It's like maybe today's standard of people doing it with animals. I don't know.
Probably, yes. It would get to the point which would be so unheard of that smacking someone would be considered not an inappropriate response. It would actually be considered inappropriate because most men would kill their wives at that point. Even today, most men would kill their wives and the person that they're sleeping with if they find their wife in a bed with someone else.
Yeah.
But the Quran says, no, you can't do that, obviously. At that point in time, all you can do is physically discipline them. Now, this is what we were talking about before. The Quran is a guidance for all of mankind for all of time. So as time progressed, you saw that the fourth Khalifa had a translation that corresponded to the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Translation changed.
The second Khalifa he had the translation Mar, which means strike in Urdu. Yeah. And honestly, I think that would be appropriate at that time. At that point in time when men and women are so, their societies are so, let's just say, close-knit, and things like this are unheard of, yeah, that would make sense. But at the fourth Khalifa's time, when society has progressed and people are a little bit more...
Society has progressed. I'll say deprogressed.
Okay, society has advanced, progressed in time, in technology, right? What you see people having secular viewpoints, but people are much more casual about relationships.
You know, Zero thinks of that today in part of the sermon, that this Rohani and the Jismani, the Rohani Bamariya, the spiritual illnesses are much worse. And are the biggest sickness of today.
So at that point in time, he says also physical chastisement, but he doesn't say smack.
He says bagni ka, physical punch, physical chastisement.
Physical chastisement. He doesn't say smack. Now the thing is that daraba, I did some research. We're talking about this before. It also means just to cast out, to strike out. So I think in a society, say 100 years from now, 200 years from now, when people are very advanced, say when a physical confrontation won't even amount to anything. Say if people permanently would be wearing say exosuits, right? At that point in time, smacking someone wouldn't mean anything. But the Quran is not obsolete at that point. At that point in time, you can still separate them from your lives and say, I'm done. We're not together anymore. I've separated myself from you. Like, I've cast you out like an old sweater. Like the covering. I've taken the covering off and I've thrown it away from myself because it doesn't cover me anymore. What would you do to a jacket that has holes in it? That lets rain come through, huh?
Well, actually, for me...
I'm saying, what would you do a jacket that had holes with it that's falling on the ground, dirt's all over it,
okay.
Right? When it rains, the water gets stuck in the pockets and drains out under your shirt. You would take the jacket off, you throw it in the trash, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you do. You cast it away.
But I'll say about that, the hitting part, we're also reading that the the Holy Prophet ﷺ, like, first forbade.
He forbade it.
Then a companion, Hazrat Umar, who's actually what, the second Khalifa? Is the same Hazrat Umar?
I'm not entirely sure about the Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Osman, Hazrat Ali, right?
Yeah, but it's the same Hazrat Umar, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So he said that.
Said Aryan, yeah.
He said that this is refractory. And then the Prophet gave permission. Then he said that ill-treatment of women. Then he said, okay.
No, what happened was people were ill-treating their wives.
Yeah, ill-treating. So he said that, okay, we will give the permission, but it's the last resort.
And the best of you don't do it.
The best of you don't do it, and if you do it, you're not the best of them.
Now, what that means in Islam...
And one more thing, if you do it, you're not allowed to leave a mark, which is still kind of a little bit...
what that means, you don't smack them like you would smack a man. You wouldn't punish them like you punish a man.
Yeah.
You don't even hit them like you would hit a horse trying to get it to move. Do you understand?
You cannot leave a mark.
Now think about this. In terms of Islam, best of men, all Muslims that are righteous are always progressing to be like the Holy Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi. That's the model that they're trying to aspire to be.
And he never hit.
He never hit.
He never hit. He said, I am the best among you. And he never hit one of his wives.
But in the case of a Muslim that needs to get divorced, at that point in time, I'm not saying hit, but I'm saying at that point in time, that's also something that's not... That's the most... the worst thing that's the thing that Allah hates the most, that is halal. Divorce. And
even, if a woman is sleeping around in the Holy Quran, there is a... punishment, you could say,
adultery
for adultery and fornication, and this is not saying that. This is saying only physical chastisement.
Yes, at that point in time, it's a physical chastisement. It's still a punishment, but it's not the punishment in the public. We're talking about that too. Like, if, for example, in a society that's really advanced, we're talking about if somebody gets caught for zina, honestly, who has the authority to whip them? Seriously, who has the authority to whip them?
I'm gonna whoop you in the holodeck.
No, honestly, the Khalifa has stated that he's not a political leader.
Yeah.
At that point in time, with political laws, people fornicate all the time. Fornication, but what I think it means, and I've heard stories of this too about a lady. This is before. I'll try to explain. I'm not entirely sure how strong this hadith is. There's a woman who committed zina.
Okay.
She went to the Holy Prophet and said that I committed zina.
Okay.
And the Holy Prophet said,
this sounds familiar. But
she said it once, right? And he didn't say anything, and he didn't basically don't. Basically, he was saying, don't think about it. Don't. That's not sufficient enough for us to act upon it.
But what? Even if you, actually, I think you're right. The Holy Quran does not ever say even if you self-witness to it. It doesn't say that, does it?
No.
As far as I don't know, but. It only says 4 witnesses. It doesn't say, even if you self-testify, it does not say you get the punishment.
Well, no, I'll explain. What happened after she testified 4 times, she was punished.
She testified herself 4 times.
She testified because she wanted to repent. Do you understand?
No, sorry. So it's the second time she said it then?
And then nothing.
Nothing.
Third time, nothing. And the 4th time, that's when she got the punishment. The thing is, this is the other thing too. This also has to do with stoning.
Stoning is like...
In the hadith, she was stoned. But this is the thing you have to understand. When the Quran was revealed, the punishment for adultery, there was adulterers in between the Quran starting to be revealed and the punishment for adultery happened.
Yeah.
It was revealed. So at that point in time, the Judaic law would hold precedent.
Because it said the Holy Prophet would always obey the old law.
Until the new law.
And the second thing was that if somebody was not Muslim, he would follow the law of their religion. Like if it was a Jew who committed adultery, he would go to the Torah and not go to the Holy Quran.
That's why in the battle of, I think it was Badr, when the Jews committed mutiny against the Muslims and they were called upon it, why do you commit mutiny? That's why the Holy Prophet said, get an arbitrator.
And there's an arbitrator.
And the arbitrator
decided against them.
Yes.
And it was their own arbitrator.
Yes. And he said, by law.
By Torah's law.
It's execution.
Execution. And I guess the Jews were, I don't know what their response was, but now there's a big commotion about it.
Well, of course, mutiny during war? What do you think that means?
Nowadays, the Holy Prophet killed 80 Jews. I don't know what the number is.
Even then, for example, they say another thing. Taking women as slaves for concubines. This is another thing, too.
This thing about the right hand possess.
I have an explanation for it, too, and Hazur explained it very beautifully. Go ahead.
Before we go into that, another thing about that, there are some hadiths, I don't know if they're strong, where they say that even when the Quranic law was revealed, even if they were Muslim, there still was stoning. But I think there was always other conditions, other things that happened, or the hadiths may just be...
No, after that, in the Quran, when the Quran is complete, there was no stoning anymore. But even then, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, we could be wrong. Me and you sitting here, we could be wrong about that hadith, for all we know. That's why, honestly, when I talk about Islam, let's talk about the Quran.
Yeah.
Forget about the hadiths, because the hadiths, they help understand the Quran. But honestly, they can also exactly hamper the understanding of the Quran too. The hadiths say nothing about stoning. The Quran does say nothing about stoning. The hadiths may say it in some weak or strong marriages. We have no idea. We're not God, right?
But it does kind of contradict the Holy Quran, because the Holy Quran never says anything about stoning. It does not say anything about stoning.
What about... Okay, well...
No, what are you saying about the right hand possess?
So, okay, go ahead. I'll go ahead about this. So, with war, right? So if you have a community... So, the way war used to work is that you would kill the men, rape the women, kill the children.
That's the old style.
That's old style. And then after you're done raping the women, you would either kill them or enslave them. Or enslave the children or enslave whatever. You'd kill the old people, I know that for sure. This is just for the old, pillagers and, what do you call it, brigandy. It was back in the day, let's just say that.
It still goes on with these
clowns. You have to understand, too, it's part of our human development, too. A lot of what we do now, in terms of the way we treat women and everything, it's all reminiscent of the way we were genetically selected to be like the way we were. You have to understand that, too. It's a part of an old human... It's part of the old human inclination to incite oneself towards evil.
It is natural in that sense, but that's why religion came about in general.
To reform men, to discipline
the man.
Exactly. So, what I'm going to get into is this. In war in Islam, you cannot kill any children.
Cannot kill any woman.
Cannot kill any women.
Cannot kill medics.
You cannot. Right? You cannot. Exactly. Can't kill. There's a lot of things you can't do. Cannot kill non-combatants. Period. Right. Now, if a woman's coming after you with a sword, there's a different thing. That's different. That's self-defense. That's not war self-defense. That's self-defense. And if you need to, I mean, obviously, if they're overpowering you and they're shoving a knife down your, down your throat, you may have to act upon it. Of course, you wouldn't attempt to, but the whole point is you're trying to self-preservation. There's a difference in even that. There's a difference in...
You may want to try to disarm.
Exactly. There's a difference in self-preservation and even war. War, you're killing them because you're in a battle. Self-preservation, you're doing it because you're in a situation where you have no choice. Right? But that's a different case. So the reason why this is interesting, and I want you to... Because there's a new philosophy I'm trying out in here. Think about it like this. At that point in time, you have taken captives of war because their men are dead, and these women have no homes anymore.
Right.
You've taken them as captives. At that point in time, you automatically have the rights of nikah. Right? Yeah. Why? Because these women are around you all the time now.
Yeah.
They're within your presence. They have the ability to seek freedom. Through Quranic law, there's ways of seeking freedom. Through hadiths, there are ways of seeking freedom. But at that point in time, you have nikah with these women. Now, in Islam, they have the same rights as a wife does. Tell me, can you rape your wife in Islam?
Hazrat Ibrahim had many, what they call concubines.
Well, Hazrat Ibrahim was before Islamic law.
But, I mean, it's all like Islam in that sense, right?
I'm talking about before the Quranic law.
But in the Christians don't accept...
Christians don't accept polygamy as a whole...
Hajra.
Yeah.
But she was, I don't know exactly what she was, but she was like a... What was she? Like a servant?
Servant, basically.
Okay.
But even if they don't accept her, Solomon had hundreds of wives, David had many wives. Having many wives existed for the longest time. This is all stupid arguments that people...
But anyway, going back to this.
So these women are your captives. But think about it like this.
Okay, so you automatically have nikah, so does that mean can you rape your wife? That's the question.
No, you can't rape your wife. Of course you can't rape your wife. So can you rape a war captive? No. The whole point is that at this point in time, they themselves, you are not considered sinful for having this woman around you and watching them and looking at them. Do you understand?
But have you done nikah with them?
You don't need to sign paperwork for nikah in that case. It's a very rare case this happens.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
And if you happen to have sex with that woman, right?
Then you have to do the same rights of a husband, which is to provide.
Provide for the children, inheritance, everything, full 9 yards.
Actually, you're already kind of taking care of her by leaking her in the house. So because you have that balance, right? You say, okay, well, I want to do parda, so either I can kick her out of the house and let her, whatever, like let her
die in the desert,
or I don't do parda, keep her in the house, keep her alive, and emotions may stir within me. And then there's a prescription for that, which is you have that kind of.
You're already married. It's a right hand possessions. So the whole point.
Then you have responsibilities over that person. Too.
Exactly.
And there's also a kind within the 4, right? Or
what?
4 wives.
No,
it's not
extra. I know it sounds funny, but
I think you're right. Actually, it says 4 wives, and then it says, "And what your right hands possess."
You're allowed to do nikah 4 times, but
formal nikah. Because
at one time. But
the whole reason for if you want to go polygamy, we can cover this in detail later. But cursory glance, the reason is that, especially in war times, there's going to be more women than men.
Well, also now would be a good time too.
Even now, more women than men. So that's why you need to have that. That's why that reason is there. And in circumstances such as these, where the woman has no place to go, then
of course,
it's better to keep this life of It's better to keep someone alive and well rather than keeping them as a servant. Or
throughout what we've been talking about is we took it a big. So I don't know how we're going to title this, because this is not Ahmadiyya versus ISIS anymore. This is not Ahmadiyya versus liberal Islam anymore. This is more Ahmadiyya and a bunch of other topics we're linking together one by one. But I'll go back to our main topic. Go ahead.
I do want to say one more thing, was that how we were talking about those 3 parts of punishment. You said, okay, if you're flirting, you can tell them it's wrong. If you're hugging, you leave the beds. If you're sleeping, you can. But
that's not concrete. That's just us right. Comprehending what we think would be.
But the question is that, okay, well, let's someone ask, what if the person was just sleeping? Do you start off with first saying don't do that, or do you go straight to the physical? But
it never starts with sleeping with other men.
That's the thing.
It never starts with sleeping with other men.
It can never ever start. So just as the physical develops, the reformation develops as well. So you never go to somebody and say, okay, time to sleep with somebody. If you really have a relationship, first you start flirting. Mm-hmm. Okay, don't tell them to do that. Then you start doing this. They need to sit. You do the beds. Then you start sleeping, and then you do that. But what if the man doesn't find out until
the women start sleeping with other men?
Yeah, then you still have to follow the same prescribed order. Don't do this.
I don't think that's the way it works. I'll tell you why. Do you want to know why?
Yeah, why?
Okay. So in olden times, right, with men and women were, they would be, I can't explain it very well with old time, I can explain it well now. I'll start with now. Women nowadays, right, they're not the type of women that are reserved, and then when they want to sleep with a man, they completely come open. That's not the way women are now.
But there are things as a one-night stands.
Let me try to explain.
Okay.
Women nowadays, what they do is they like to flirt. They like to feel attention from other men. Yeah. They like to reach out emotionally to other men and try to grab their attention, like, look at me, right? And eventually, to get that attention, they may touch, they may talk, they may hug, right? And then eventually, to get to that high that they desire, they may have relationships. Back in the day, it was different. Back in the day, women barely ever saw men. So there might be a physical repression that they feel very hungry about, right? And out of that hunger, they may reach out and eat something that they shouldn't. So they may reach out and have sexual relations. Even the allegations against Hazrat Aisha, it's not like she was there for a long time.
Yeah.
She just happened to be alone in a situation, right?
Right.
And people assumed automatically.
Because that was culture back then.
That was a culture. If men and women are alone, most likely something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But,
which is
normal.
Which is even in the
no, think about it.
Surah Al-Quran, where it says, if man and woman are alone, third guy is shaitan.
that's Sadis.
That's pretty cool. It's like,
But even the Quran, it actually exonerates her in the Quran.
Like if the one was a woman, Shaitan just sitting there.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is this: is that back in the day, right? It would be unheard of that happening.
Right.
And at that point in time, if it would happen, it would be very rare. Very rare. Right? So that's why I think it's not going to happen. They're not going to just jump into bed with other men, because what happens is that with women, right, they're always kept in a domestic setting. And that's in that environment. And I'm not saying they're kept there because that's where they belong. I'm saying they're kept there because if you want to be realistic, the world is not a pretty place back in the day. The world was not a pretty place. The reason you don't know how ugly people were, and I'm talking about emotionally ugly people were, because you don't have many stories about it.
Around the history recorded.
Exactly. The people who were cut up and eaten and stuff like that, and the people who were raped and pillaged, nobody knows. Exactly. Genghis Khan with babies and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you right now.
What babies?
He did stuff with babies and hung them from places.
Okay.
Yeah, Genghis Khan was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy.
What I'm saying, back then, the world was a very ugly place.
It was very...
People keeping weapons on them?
Very like, what's that called? Instinctual.
People kept weapons on them because it was a necessity. Not only did you fear other people, you feared animals too. You just said animals were a problem.
Well, I was actually referring to...
I know, I'm saying in terms of animalistic people, but I'm saying...
That's why the caravan, there was like a route from like Mecca to like some route, and that caravan was like... That route was like very... One of the routes was like very dangerous or something. Mm-hmm. Or was attacked by robbers. Right? Right. You very much know about this, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So, I mean, there was no law enforcement for areas outside certain...
So you had
towns,
to protect
right?
yourself. So men who had to go out...
There was no like police officer standing in the middle of some desert or something.
Exactly.
You had to self-protect. And the population of the world was lower.
Exactly.
People died more fast or whatever.
They were easily... People lived long lives, but they could die easily from...
Yeah, okay.
Infant mortality is in a lot of these statistics you see.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So anyway, when you go on to see... when you go on to see the way environment was then, it was a very different environment. So men had a very strong control of their household. Because they're like, this is my domain. I have to protect this land. So I know what comes in and out of this land. There's not some guy who's like, oh, let's go meet this woman at this house. The guy would be like, hell no! At that point in time.
I'm a plumber.
Okay. That's not the way it worked. You didn't invite people into your house. The way it was a very close-knit community. Everyone knew each other. Everyone saw what was happening all the time.
That still happens in some, I think, villages and parts of Africa and other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, people know each other.
People are very close-knit.
When I went to Rabwa, people saw me stick out like a sore thumb. My wife told me, oh, this person noticed. This person, I was like, how the heck? I was like, I didn't notice anyone. And she's like, oh, people know each other really well over here.
I think you're right. I think the same thing kind of... People are talking, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy came from so-and-so place.
America.
America.
Right? But the thing is that that's the way it works. So, but now, it's more subtle. Now, with this society, you see people... They're much more prone to doing stupid things because they're given the opportunity to do it, but at the same time, they're given the opportunity for the wrong reasons. So back then...
Even in the United States, they're close-knit communities. Some rural areas.
Well, what I was saying is that with infidelity, with women nowadays and men, now they're going to be flirting. It's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. With us, we know that all flirting, it ends with fornication.
I mean...
I'm saying that's the real purpose.
That is the...
Okay, sorry.
It's kind of like the social media, Facebook kind of thing.
I'll try to say this. I'll try to... let me go back a bit. All interaction between men and women is solely for the purpose of consorting.
Even if they never happen, even if it never happens, you're going near the cliff. You're building the emotion.
Exactly. Unless if you are somebody who observes parda. That is a protection.
And the parda...
What?
Is not... I don't know if we mentioned this before, but the primary parda, and it was kind of my theory or something, but then I read it somewhere too. I don't know if I heard it somewhere, I don't know where, but it was confirmed by something that the primary parda is not the physical parda. The primary parda is parda within.
Exactly.
For both men and women. And the physical parda helps protect...
Exactly, what's inside. Exactly, that's
so it's not like, okay, I'm wearing a hijab, fully covered.
But in my head, I'm completely messed up.
I'm going to start, texting on some kind of website.
Yeah, I'm going to keep some cell phone with a bunch of boys' names. A bunch of girls' names that are boys, in fact, or some crap like that.
Something like something.
I heard people do this all the time. Girls, what apparently they do, and I learned this when I was in, in college. I didn't know this before. Apparently what girls do to hide information is they'll put, like, Jenny on their phone contact, right? And it'll be some guy that they're trying to go out with, that they don't want their dad to know about. American girls. I'm saying American girls do this. Yes, American do this too.
I thought it was more about...
Do you want to know why? Because say if they're with their boyfriend, right? And they want to talk with another guy. That's why it's also too.
Yeah, because they have multiple. You'd think that men have multiple girlfriends, but I think it's vice versa.
Because they're all shameless anyway. So they'll be fully So the point is that the whole point of parda, it's an internal.
Use your friend's phone. It's
an internal jihad, right? And in that internal jihad, you present yourself in a physical way that is appropriate. For women, it's covering up. For men, it's not to be so showy and going after ogling women and stuff like that.
Now, going back to that question, that if you find out firstly that your wife is sleeping with people, and it became as a shock to you, maybe you just returned from war, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to follow that prescribed thing? First, you tell them don't do it, and then tell them, then leave them, and then. Because you have the risk of getting
if you think about it really hard...
You have the risk of getting diseases if you continue to consort with them.
If you think about it really hard, at that point in time, I don't think that's what it is.
I think it may happen all instantaneously.
All three of these things just popped an idea in my head. In Islam, if you are a caught adulterer, you're whipped.
If you have witnesses, yes.
At that point in time, there would be witnesses. If it's that the husband figured out, the society figured out, everyone would know. Right. At that point in time, and not only that, those who fornicate, do you know fornicators in Islam are not allowed to be, it nullifies their nikah, you know that, right?
Yeah, I think
You can't, a fornicator can only marry a fornicator.
Yeah.
An adulterer can only marry an adulterer.
Right, yeah.
An adulteress can only marry adulteress.
Yes.
So at that point in time, you're divorced anyway. What I think it is...
disobedience does not mean sleeping around.
No, what I think it is, it does. What it means is that you are getting to the point in which you are...
about to?
Either it hasn't been fully realized yet, because it's only one witness at that time. Do you get what I'm saying?
If you have 4 witnesses, you have to do the lashes, just strict whatever.
Yeah.
Lashes, and then you can't. The marriage is nullified, and look what you said: fornicator, adulterer, believer, non-believer, disbeliever. But here, what were you going to say?
It could be
that you're progressing toward that stage.
I think
you're only one witness.
You have to understand, Islam is a very, 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 very advanced religion. It deals with the base of human nature. I think these verses, what they deal with, is with a stage that people may not have understood yet, that is existing today. And the reason why I say this is this. Remember the surah with the Hutama in it? Surah Hamaza? About the nuclear bombs?
Oh, the clouds?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the stacked columns that hold nuclear, radiation that can jump to the hearts of people.
Yeah,
doesn't make too much sense back in the day, did it?
No.
But now it makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is this, is that with the Quran, it's describing a time in which women would eventually become disloyal in gradual steps away from men, because an environment of social infidelity would be created.
Was not there in the past,
and now it's been created. And now, as women,
maybe in the past it was actually something about maybe not cooking the food or not in the past. We're talking about 600.
But the thing is, nashuz doesn't mean anything. Nashuz connotes a infidelity.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is this: as these gradual steps, I'm saying with infidelity, it's also gradual steps too.
Right.
It's first, maybe back in the day, I was looking at other men,
right,
and then talking with other men,
yeah,
and then seeing and sitting down with other men, right? Maybe
that's 100 different things. That's a whole different topic about having those signals and signs, interactions,
right? And maybe at that point in time, it was At that point in time, it was being more revealing with your nakah, with other men on purpose, to attract them. But now it's a completely different situation. So that's really interesting. What it seems like with a lot of these verses, it's that they have meanings that are corresponding to the human condition, the base human condition, which can change over time. So these verses have a very, 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 very systematic approach to dealing with situations.
But what if you're only the one witness?
At that point in time, honestly, that's where I think the physical daraba comes in. So if you catch them once, right?
You catch them, or you somehow find out that this person has, and the first thing you find out, you knew nothing before, because this happens. This happens, I know, especially in non-Muslim people who like find out one day, oh, this person was sleeping with them. Right? That's what they say. One day they found out, and they had suspicions before, but they never could confirm it. Right? So what do you do when the first time you find out?
I think the first time you find out, I think it is a punishment, and if the person comes back to you, it says keep the marriage. I think that's what it is.
The first time you're saying you actually can't physically do it?
I think physically at that point it's a physical...
You know what? It may just be that you catch somebody somehow, that person, your spouse, your wife was sleeping with you, and the first time...
Sleeping with someone else, you mean?
Sleeping with somebody else, and you just tell them don't do this, because if you think about it, that may just be enough for them to stop, because the whole time they're trying to keep it a secret. And that moment, you know, when the moment you try to keep a secret or you're lying, and and the moment that somebody found out that you're lying, that your secret has been exposed, you feel like a sudden like ache in the heart. Yeah. So it really gets like.
Yeah, at that point in time,
it's like, oh my God, I've been found out. So it may actually restrain you.
And at that point in time, if they want to continue the affair, then that's when you discontinue your consorting with them, and
you can also probably, you know, it's not like clear. Like maybe you can still consort with them even after phase 1, but maybe less.
So all these things really matter upon the situation you're in.
And after maybe a month, and then they continue to do it, and then the third one you can, because I know for a fact that, I mean, when you're young or something, when you're trying to hide something, or you're lying to somebody and you've been found out by your parents, you get that sudden pain. You're like, okay, well, this is enough. I don't want to feel that pain again. I don't be. I'm just going to stop.
But honestly, we're not thinking about this realistically. You want to know why?
Yeah.
If you find out your wife is sleeping out with someone, you're not going to be like, oh, don't do that. No, you're not going to be like that. You know, you and me both know this. Yeah. Anyone in the world knows this. If a man finds a woman sleeping with another man, it's not going to be like, oh, you don't do this, very bad. No, it's not going to be like that. That you don't do this very bad is if you find her like talking with other men. And then you stop sleeping with her. You know what that is. That's after she talks with other men, she goes out dating other men.
I guess you could happen all at once. You could say, okay, that's bad what you did. You stop it, and then you do something physical.
Also, saying that the first time they do it, right? How many witnesses do you really have? You have the wife who can testify if they did it or not. She'd either testify against herself or with herself. The guy she did it with, he would be open about it too at that point in time. You're like, yep, we slept together. That's one witness. She says, yeah, I slept with him. That's another witness. And you're sleeping with him? That's a third witness. And all you need to do is somebody who knew about it. The other guy's wife too.
Oh, yeah.
Because in Islam, there's not very many unmarried people. That's not a concept in a Muslim society, unmarried people.
That's very interesting, actually. Like
that point in time.
I feel like we just found out the basis of the number 4.
Right?
Because there's always pairs, and if you have 2 pairs, like let's say wife and husband 1, wife and husband 2, right. Wife 1, husband 2, you have those 2 witnesses.
Yes.
The adulterers, and then you have the outside witnesses who are the spouses of the victims. That's 4.
That's 4. At that point in time. At that point in time, what happens is this: if both couples find out, and it becomes something that they can't reconcile, that's when the marriage is nullified. And at that point in time, that's when, if you want to repent, you use the punishment.
Yeah, you're right. It is being unrealistic. Like, if you do find out, I mean, it's probably because you yourself may be doing something wrong, or you may be neglecting it, or if you haven't found out anything until the day that she was sleeping. That's kind of
true.
Weird. I mean, like you couldn't find anything out. No signs, no signals that she was unhappy, dissatisfied.
More interesting. So that verse right there, we were talking about the breadwinners, right?
Maybe you weren't doing that either.
Guidance. that verse only applies to those who are righteous, and those who are righteous would be constant observation. And in the beginning, they would pick up that my wife is becoming distant and she is becoming unloyal, that she's flirting with other men. At that point in time, you'd admonish them.
Yeah.
And then after that, when she starts dating other men, going out to other men, not consorting yet, at that point in time, you leave the bed. Be like, look, this is more of a punishment for me, but I'm showing you that right now I disapprove of this.
Yeah, because this is actually this society where they say, okay, anything with men is fine, just don't sleep with them. They say that's not the right attitude.
Yeah.
That's why people kind of neglect their minds with everything except when that happens. But if you're like two good Muslims or whatever, you pay attention to your wife, and then your wife pays attention to you.
Exactly.
And you would pick up on it if wife is dissatisfied or something. Unless, of course, if you're at war and you left your wife for a year, but then your wife, that's a different circumstance. Now, one more thing I want to say: the same three conditions. How would that apply to the man?
Maybe it's one of those things that don't apply to the man.
You say level 1 is to tell them how to do it. That could work.
If a woman finds a man sleeping with another woman, I think at that point in
then you
time,
can leave the bed. That's number 2. Physically could mean dissolve your responsibility, which is like you said, emotional, and just leave.
It could be.
I don't know. This is what you were saying before. You can cast away. A woman could cast away.
there's an issue. There's an inherent issue. You wanna know why? If a woman
It
finds
says wife in that verse too, right?
Huh?
It says wife.
Why?
In that verse.
For what?
It doesn't say spouse. It uses the word wife.
For what?
That verse. The verse.
Yeah,
that,
it uses woman. Yeah, man and woman. Yeah.
It doesn't say. What I'm trying to say, it says if she does not do this. It doesn't say if the spouse does not do this. It says if she does not do this.
I think if the man is unloyal, I think it's a different connotation. Do you want to know why? Because we were talking about before. You have a woman who has a man, and then he sleeps with another woman. Now that woman has a wali.
Yeah.
That wali
was the husband.
I think the punishment is actually for... it's funny if you think about it. Because that wali, right, would be either the husband or the father.
Right. But after nikah is the husband.
After nikah is the husband, right? But what I'm trying to say is this. Think about it really hard. You have 4 right there. Yeah. You have the wife of the husband, right?
Yeah.
You have the husband who fornicated.
Okay.
You have the daughter or the wife. And you have the wali.
wait. What about the... You said 4 or 5?
4. That's the 4.
You have the 2 fornicators.
2 fornicators.
2 adulterers.
You have the wali.
You have the good wali, the husband.
The wali, the husband or father.
We're talking about adulterers, though.
I'm talking about the witnesses. In this engagement, what happens? You have the woman who's not doing anything wrong. Her husband's sleeping with another woman.
Right. Are they both married?
They're both married, or no. What I'm saying in Islam, no matter what, women always have a wali.
Okay. Yes.
Right, a protector.
Oh, you're basically saying that if a woman is not married, the 4th one would be the wali,
right?
Which is either the husband or father. So if it's 2 unmarried boys and girls, 2 boys and girls, that would be 2. Mm-hmm. The father's, the girl's father, and the father's father, the boy's father.
I think at that point in time, it's really funny if you think about it, because if they're both children, right, and they are fornicating,
right,
at that point in time, it's only 2 witnesses. At that point in time, it would be pertinent to get them married, because it would be bad. But honestly, the best way to do it is to get them married.
I think that's why. I'm not sure if Islam says this, but very culturally, I kind of feel like fornication is not looked down upon as much as adultery.
In Quran?
Not in Quran, but
society or Muslim society?
Even maybe Pakistani Muslim society. Did they say, okay, you did a horrible thing, just get married? Whereas adultery is
no, they're both very bad. They're both very bad. But I'll tell you something funny.
But this is an interesting point that you can't have 4 with the
with 2 children.
You can have 4
like 16-year-olds that are.
But you can have 4 with the
married couples.
With married couples, because you can have the girl's father, but you can't have the boy's father. Well, no. If you're a child, then your father is a thing for a boy.
No, you have no wali as a boy. You do know
mean,
that, right?
I mean, yeah, but like if you're a child,
No, it's not the way it works.
if you're a 5-year-old,
No,
10-year-old,
I'm not talking about 5-year-olds here. Let's be realistic here.
one pace.
Oh, listen, what I'm trying to say is
saying
this.
when you're a little boy, you have some kind of protector as the head of the household.
That's not what I'm saying. That's different. Listen, you're not. It's not even punishable at that age.
Okay.
You flog a boy. That's not the way it's gonna work.
Oh, I don't do it. Anyway.
Islam, in the Quran, zina means adultery and fornication.
Yes. We don't want to distinguish between the two.
The reason why, it's because in Muslim societies, and I'm very 100% sure about this, people may disagree with me, I'm very 100% sure about this, not many people after the age of puberty were unmarried.
Back in the day.
I'm talking about when Islam was in its heyday. I'm talking about after the Holy Prophet firmly established Islam. He encouraged the marriage of people after the age of puberty. Even the Holy Prophet marrying at 25, I think the reason why it happened is because he was an orphan, and for him it was difficult to find an established family. So Allah Ta'ala made provisions for him to get married.
And you could even say that he was really an exception.
He was an exception. But at the same time, what I'm saying is he was an orphan.
But he was also an example, so you can't, use that argument for everything.
I know. So what I'm saying is this. He was an example exception, but at the same time, with his situation, he always encouraged people to get married young.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, a lot of people were at that... when you were young, you were married. So, second thing. Boys in Islam, you're a man after puberty. In Islamic standards. When you start working, that's when you actually become eligible to be, a breadwinner. So in a Islamic sense, if you want to get married, you have to be somebody who is physically able to handle the responsibility of earning.
Are you saying that you have to earn money?
No, that's not what I'm saying, because imagine society without money. No, nope.
Are you saying
nope.
that you have to earn resources somehow?
Nope, that's not what I'm saying either.
Because I want to make sure that you say, no student under the age of 40 is allowed to get married.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the ability to manipulate the environment to create comfort for your spouse. Think about that real hard, because if you don't understand that concept, let's say 300 years from now,
300 years? Is it 300?
So I'm saying in general. The very general number I'm using. Okay. 300 years from now, when people are in a very, very different state where they don't have to do any manual labor, what dictates someone's ability to provide any type of input to the society would be their mind. Would be their ability to manage affairs mentally. And when does that happen? After the age of puberty. That's when you become mentally aware.
And it develops after that.
Yes.
Keeps on developing.
And after that, that's what I think is when people would be getting married. If you're going to have a civilized society.
And the good thing about marriage, young marriage, is that even though you say, argument is that, you're not even mature enough. But that's kind of the point. Because if you are mature...
You're stubborn.
Just like your skeleton or your brain is fully developed at age 25. Physically, you're also mentally stubborn. And you can't get along with your...
Physically stubborn and mentally stubborn, exactly.
You can't get along... Hopefully not spiritually stubborn, but you can't get along with your spouse because you have your ideas, she has her ideas, or vice versa. That's why you do need to kind of mold into each other to an extent. Not like when you're 5, but you need some foundation. But you don't need like the whole thing.
We should label this Ahmadiyya versus liberal sexuality.
We were talking about this lady, the light-skinned lady. I still don't know what your... I do want to go back to it.
We're going to go back to it, because it actually involves this, too. So, basically, what I was trying to say is this. A lot of Muslims nowadays, when they seeing Islam, they look at hadiths.
I think we just kind of... we're using this as an example. Something as an example. We had like a 2-hour conversation about this.
It's fine, because I'm going back to it, because you want to know why? I've created the foundation that I can create.
Okay.
If you listen to all of this, and if you're paying attention to what I'm talking about, then you'll understand where we're going from now on. You have full understanding.
Yeah, I guess it's better in that sense.
We planted the seed.
Because sometimes what happens is that since we have had old conversations...
Not many people know what we're talking about, yeah.
We can say something, and we may not even be thinking about the audience, and we may fully understand each other, and we may do this inadvertently. Like, I just had the mold part so quickly... And I remember we probably had a conversation about this for maybe more than an hour.
You're talking about imprinting?
I mean, like, just the concept of the boy and girl molding into each other We didn't agree.
Oh, you're talking about that.
I just mentioned just like that. And
just like that. And we've talked about it hours. Yeah, I know.
We've talked about it for hours. So, like, we may do this inadvertently, but it's good that we're kind of, as much as possible, at least trying to get
details out.
The past details out. I mean, some past things we talked about were wrong, but how we build upon things, that part should maybe be at least somewhat clarified. We can't replicate the old conversations. That'd be kind of.
But we can make an engine to build the new conversation, a foundation. So the whole point is this: is that
maybe do it in a different way, like we did today.
All right. So the whole point we're trying to get across is that with a lot of what Dajjal is trying to do right now, Dajjal is trying to find a way of systematically linking Muslims with the culture of Arabs, and calling that Islam. Yeah. And they call Arabs that are culturally stubborn fundamentalist Muslims, and then they call a bunch of Arab bandus that are killing people extremist Islamists, and they try to create political nationalist groups into Islamist factions. No. And this woman, lesbian lady that we were looking at on the...
I was shivering.
You're cold?
No, I don't know.
Like, how could there be such thing as a lesbian Muslim? I don't know either. But what she is she's an intermediate. She's laying like the mortar.
She tries to, but okay, that's what you're saying. She tries to act like an intermediate.
No. That's what I'm saying. Imagine if you're building a building.
Okay.
Imagine if you're preparing a bomb. Imagine if you're preparing a poison.
Okay.
You have to have some sort of medium, right? Imagine you're building a building. You put a brick down and you put like the little concrete, the liquid, the mortar, right? Yeah. On there. She's the mortar right now. You want to know why? Because in her words, she's saying that Islam needs a reform.
Liberal Islam, okay.
In Gaza, if you really want to say it right. Honestly, it baffles my mind how blatantly transparent she is.
You're saying that she's possibly lying?
She's 100% lying. She's a bunch of lies.
No, but because I thought you were saying that she has a point of view. She thinks what she's saying is correct. She's just being paid to do it. But you're actually saying that she's actually lying.
What I'm saying is this. She lived probably a life that was very culturally influenced. She probably has no understanding of actual Islam. She probably read a few verses of the Quran, right?
And she says Quran, but she doesn't point to any specific
She doesn't know how to actually read the... most likely she doesn't have the strong... I can't say that she doesn't know how to read the Quran. I cannot say that at all. But I can say this. Fundamentally, if you're a lesbian, you have no understanding of the Holy Quran. Very, very strong. I can say that very strongly. And I'm not saying because Quran, vehemently opposes homosexuality. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is because
all the context around it.
The Quran is the development of the human body into a ability to take the environment, process the environment properly, and create a behavior that is productive.
That is superior.
That allows you to progress, not digress. You understand?
Yeah. No, but
if you want to take some, what's it called, dirt from the ground, stuff it in your mouth, and saying you're being, sustained, that's not the way it works.
No, I was saying in the very beginning of this conversation that you were saying that she's trying to reform Islam, she's liberal, but you were saying I think you were saying no, or maybe I misinterpreted something. What exactly is she trying to do? What is it exactly she's trying to say? My understanding so far is that she's a liberal Muslim who's saying that Islam needs to change.
Not Islam. Muslims need to change.
Not Islam?
Muslims.
She said Islam.
She doesn't know the difference. But her basic argument is Muslims need to change.
Because it said Islam with its troubles.
I know. This is the funny thing about it. The Muslims that are angry on her, they don't even know why they're angry. Okay. They're too stupid to understand why they're angry also. She's
saying Muslims always need to change.
Listen, exactly. That's the whole premise. This is the funny part. Look, this is the part where I'm trying to get at.
I don't understand what she's trying to say.
She does not actually give any roadmap of how to help people out.
She does not give any roadmap of how to help people out. She does not list the problems.
Not list the problem.
So what does she do?
All she is here to do is to say that the West isn't the problem. The Muslim community is the problem, and to politically reform the Muslim. When you start talking about Gaza and independent Israel and all this other stuff,
it has nothing to do with Islam.
There's nothing to do with Islam. And politically speaking, in terms of justice, absolute justice, the absolute justice of what happened to the Muslims is one, the Muslims let it happen to themselves. Yes, she's right about that. But two, other people are they're in a line with a bat and they're hitting Muslims as hard as they can and paying money to, those in power to do so.
The thing is that everyone very well knows that if anything,
Mm-hmm.
it first started as a purely political war, okay? Israel and...
Be very careful where you're going.
Well, okay, what I'm trying to say is that in the very, very beginning, there were Jews in Palestine before 1948.
Yes, of course. They were our brothers back then, yes.
Living peacefully.
Yes.
Islam was there, but that was just a cultural aspect. It was, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They were both Arabs.
Yes.
They're both Arabs. The Jews and the Muslims, they're both Arabs.
So, no.
I mean...
Semitic, yes. Arab, no. Jews are the son of Ishaq.
Okay,
Arabs are the son of Ishmael. They're both brothers.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm trying to say...
They're genetic brothers, yes.
Okay, they were not... The Jews may not have been Arabs, but I think some of them were so well integrated into the society...
That they're genetically similar,
like, that... I'm not even talking about, like, marriage. I'm just talking about they understand... They probably know how to speak Arabic. They probably knew... maybe. They probably knew a lot of Arab culture, and vice versa. To an extent.
Before you go on, because there's a premise I have to lay here. You do know that the Jews that are the Zionists in Israel are not the same as the original...
These are the same Jews who are living there peacefully.
They're not the same Jews. There are a bunch of Europeans that call themselves Jews.
No, I'm talking about the original Jews...
The original Jews in Israel...
In Palestine. Before 1948.
Before all this drama happened, were our brothers...
Yeah.
Right? From Ishaq, right? That originally originated from them. The Muslims, even, were the descendants of those tribes too. The Muslims are mixed with the Jews. The Muslims are mixed with the Jews. Do you know what that means?
I'm thinking about those 10 tribes and those 12 tribes.
Those 12 tribes of the tribes of Ishaq and Ishmael, right? Of Ishmael was a nation of Muslims. Also, there were Jews that were spread around among Muslim lands. Those Jews converted to Islam. Those Jews became Muslim too. Of the few tribes that remained, there were some in Israel.
Actually, not thinking about it, there actually was maybe intermarriage to an extent.
Yes, there was a lot of intermarriage.
Especially when the Jews became Muslim.
It's just that some of them remained.
Yeah.
The problem was there were some Zionists that think they were Jews.
Okay, now that's the second phase.
That's the second phase.
So before 1948, they lived peacefully. Okay, after 1948, Zionists came.
The Zionists came. They were a political faction that were trying to nationalize Judaism.
Yeah, and they brought religion into a political scene.
Yes.
And then all this drama happened, all these things. But for the longest time, they always said Arabs versus Jews.
Yes.
For the longest time, as I've heard.
Even though realistically, that's not. They're both Semitic with their core. They're both the sons of Abraham.
They're both. Yeah, I know. They're both. If you say anti-Semitic, you're actually saying anti-Arab as well.
Yes, of course.
But it was all about culture. It was all about culture. It was always Arab versus, I think, Jews, Arab versus Israelis. That's what they used to say. Because the problem is that people say Judaism is ethnicity and a religion. Arabian Arabs are only an ethnicity. So it was always Arabs versus Jews. And I don't know if even like today, people still don't say it's, Judaism versus Islam. They don't really say that. They say Arabs versus
Palestine versus Israel,
or they say Palestine because they know very well in Israel there are Muslims there, there are mosques there, so it's not really about Islam. And this lady, I guess, is trying to bring Islam into the picture when it's a purely cultural scene or even a political scene.
You should say Muslims need to reform their interpretation of Islam. Now the thing is that when she says that,
but then isn't she kind of saying that Islam is a problem?
This is the funny part. She's laying the mortar. She doesn't specify how to reform it.
Because if she's saying that Muslims need to change the interpretation of Islam,
she doesn't say. She's not. When she says Islam, she's saying the Sunnah, the way they live their lives.
Oh, she doesn't mean the real Islam.
Because I was watching the other videos too. She's not saying abrogate the Quran. She doesn't say change the Quran. She doesn't say change the Hadith. She says change the way our interpretation. But she leaves it at that. So basically, it's like she was sent on a mission to say this one thing, that Muslims political, Muslims political, reform your view of Islam, period, and that's all she had to do, and that was it, right? And they had that fake little drama of her debating with other lady.
Okay, no. Before we go to that, so she's not. didn't give us a clean solution. She didn't get the problem really, or did she? Kind of.
No, she didn't really talk about Islam.
All her main point is what? That she's saying that Muslims should reinterpret. Muslims should change their style of living. Should reinterpret. Muslims
should accept Western values.
That's what she's saying?
That's her premise. That's her premise.
Because she was saying the West is not the problem. What was she saying? The West is not the problem, and who else is not the problem?
Israel.
It's not the problem. Mm-hmm. It's the Muslims' mindset.
Yes. It's a Muslim culture. What's the problem?
Muslim culture.
Now, that's the thing. That's not the problem. It's the monothecs that were the problem. Because if you really want to know...
to an extent, if you reword her words, you could say...
She's right.
Some Muslims are doing a problem.
Yeah, but...
Like, we say that too. Like,
but,
if you have an extremist Muslim, or if you have her, liberal Muslim, they need to change their mindset.
But this is where the real problem lies.
Not mindset, we need to change something.
And this is... Me and you both know this. The Muslims around World War I...
But we're not saying... Okay, here's the difference. But I guess she and us are both saying that the Muslims should change to an extent. But we are not saying...
We're saying the Muslims should go back to Islam.
Yeah, she's saying go to the... She's... Okay, now I finally understand. Now her premise is that she wants to
conform.
Assimilate Muslims with Western
ideals.
And when you do that, you will automatically leave Islam. She hasn't said that, though.
Even then, it's smart. It's a smart deception. You don't automatically leave Islam. You become endangered of confusing what Islam actually is. Oh, interest is okay. Interest is fine.
Once you accept Western,
talking with girls is okay.
Once you
it's not
accept
that big of a
ideals,
deal.
You will, eventually Islam will
disintegrate.
Will be forgotten.
Because the whole point of Western ideals is you can buy happiness. Money is happiness. Resources happiness.
But I guess you're right that first you will become confused, and then Islam will basically become.
That's the point. So she's laying a foundation
in a very jalak, very cunning way.
So,
Muslims should just conform with Western ideals. Basically, and then the ISIS people are saying Muslims should conform with extremist ideals, and we're saying Muslims should conform with Islam.
Islam, exactly. That's the difference between.
We all say you should change the mindset, but it's how you change the mindset. Okay, now what was she trying to do with that dark skinned lady?
It was just a joke. It was that let's pretend like we're arguing. I'm gonna pretend like I'm defending Muslims. I'm gonna pretend like, oh yeah, Muslims are like, oh yeah, she's defending us. Oh, this is amazing. The other lady's gonna be completely unreasonable. She's gonna say that Muslims leave Islam. No, and the guy who was the host, he's smart.
Is he Muslim?
He's a smart guy. He's actually a normal guy. He's okay. The guy who's a host. He was just hosting it, but the thing is, he was being used. But it's because that was basically they attract media attention, and his job as a interviewer is to get the most attention possible.
Right.
So he is there.
Sometimes when we have interviews with the Ahmadi Muslim community, sometimes the Ahmadi people, they don't. Somebody got some crazy lunatic on the side saying all these statements, and the Ahmadi guy keeps calm. I've seen this one time. It was the funniest thing. The newscaster or the moderator started defending us. Yeah. Because the news always has to have opposing sides, right? Yeah, and our guy was just saying, yeah, it's fine. You can think whatever you want to think. It's a free country. Oh my God!
We need ratings. We need conflict.
These pundits, they're all pundits.
They're all jokes. They're not real. So the thing I'm trying to get at is that,
and they say in such a way that in an initial way that kind of like stirs you up.
Exactly. So with her, with the dark skinned lady, all she was doing was saying that all this stuff. And when he said to her, he was like really plain. He's like, "Look, you're saying this stuff because it's shocking, and it gets you attention." He said it really bluntly, and she's like, and then he's like, "It's obvious."
He said to the dark skinned lady.
And what happened was
what was dark skinned lady? What was her premise?
Her premise is that Muslims need to leave Islam.
Muslims need to leave Islam altogether.
Yeah, then they're not Muslims anymore, smart one. But anyway.
Well, she wasn't Muslim either.
She was Muslim. She was apostate.
She was an apostate. Her premise was Muslims should leave Islam and become what, Christians or whatever.
Follow Jesus Christ.
Just leave Islam.
Now this is the funny thing.
She was actually saying something's wrong with Islam.
Yes.
Other lady was not saying something was wrong with Islam.
She said, "Don't leave Islam. Muslims need to reform themselves.
But need to follow Western ideas. But inadvertently, you will be leaving Islam." So that's what I was saying. They're both saying the same thing.
They're both part of the same dajjal. That's what I'm trying to say. Listen very carefully. Muslims need to leave Islam. That is separating the fact that Muslims follow Islam. When a Muslim leaves Islam, are they Muslim anymore?
No.
No. Simple, right? Then they're not Muslim.
Yeah.
Then you're saying Muslims need to not be Muslims anymore. That's what she should have said. If she really wanted to say it clearly, Muslims need to stop being Muslims.
Yeah.
But they know they have integrated so much with Islamic culture, and unfortunately a lot of the Arabs have fallen ill to this. This is the one weakness of them.
What?
So the one weakness they have is that they have gone to the point in which they have assimilated their culture with their religion. So they think what's Arab is what's Muslim, which is what's Arab is what's Islam.
This all happens over here too, in the U.S. society.
I know. So the problem is, because of that, the Dajjal has used that as an attack. Fortunately, with Ahmadis, we have no concept.
It's kind of funny, actually. Just to clarify one more time, that they were both basically saying the same thing. One was saying, leave Islam altogether blatantly.
And one was saying
One was saying, follow Western ideas. Knowingly or unknowingly, you will leave Islam. She's left. I mean, you could basically say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not calling her a disbeliever, but her values are not in accordance, her practices are not in accordance with the Holy Quran, which is Islam.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And this is what I'm trying to get at. What these people do, it's a very sneaky way of doing it. So with the dark-skinned lady, think about it. I'm trying to build a premise here. She was saying Muslims leave Islam. In her mind, what she's trying to communicate to the viewer, because her words, the way she speaks, is reinforced with her paycheck. Do you understand? So she has to speak a certain way to get that type of money.
Okay.
So with her, she was speaking in such a way that Muslims are different than Islam, which they are different.
The dark-skinned lady?
Yeah, the dark-skinned lady. But the thing is, just because they're different doesn't mean they're not dependent. Muslims are dependent upon Islam.
Who was saying? The dark-skinned lady?
I'm saying this.
Oh.
Muslims, the name Muslim that you have depends upon the existence of Islam.
Yeah.
Once you separate the two, the Muslim doesn't exist.
Fundamentally.
Yes. Other lady.
Light-skinned.
Is trying to say Muslims are living a wrong life. They need to reinterpret the Quran to live a proper life.
They're saying, but you're saying that they're saying nothing wrong with Islam, just change the mindset.
Think about it.
Did you say reinterpret the Quran?
She was talking about reinterpreting the Quran.
Okay.
You have to reform the religion.
Yeah, there's a so-called modernists.
Modernists, right?
Modernists.
Now, this is the thing. With her, it's a really slippery...
It's very sleeky.
It's very sleek.
Sneaky.
It's a very sneaky, very sleek way of saying it, right? You need to reform. Now the thing is that with her, when she says reform, this is the way you catch it. And somebody's doing a commentary on this. Actually, a guy who's a pretty good Muslim that I'm okay with.
Okay.
He said, you notice she never mentions once the actual way of interpreting Islam. She never defines Islam. She says, you need to reinterpret Islam. So what that means is this. Listen closely. I figured it out. She's saying at this point in time, Islam doesn't change with the environment. Like, the way we understand the Quran is the Quran is a perfect book for all time. I mean, the Quran can address all features and attitudes. The Quran is a basis on human conduct. No. What she's saying is this. The environment you're in, you have to use that environment to interpret the Quran.
To such an extent.
So you have to
change it?
You have to assimilate with the environment, and from that assimilation you have with the environment, you find justifications to live that lifestyle in the Quran.
So rather than you still like what you do, you can base your interpretation of the Quran in the environment that you're living in, kind of. But the Quran takes precedence.
Yes.
She's saying get the environment precedence and just find person like Quran that supports your actions or something like that.
Support a liberal environment.
Support the environment.
So with these Muslims, like what we did was this. When we read the Quran, we were doing the Surah Al-Nisa thing, right?
Okay.
This goes back to that. What we did, and I told you I was building a foundation. What we did was we used the Quran to interpret the Quran, to build an environment, to create behavior out of that, and understand why it occurs.
We started with the Quran.
Yes.
We didn't start with society.
We started with the Quran.
Yeah.
And out of that, we try to understand the society better.
Right.
And out of that one verse, we did 2 hours of research. 2 hours of research.
I still feel like we still haven't...
We haven't finished it at all.
Fully grasped it.
Because we don't know the Arabic. I mean, we try to look at the Arabic in different contexts. We looked at the Arabic various meanings of the word. We compared it with other verses that have the same word in it, have the same root word. We compared all of these things. But the thing is, we have yet to actually grasp the full concept of it. Right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, what I'm saying is this. With Islam, the way Islam works is this. The Quran needs to be studied like a circular book, with the center being Fatiha and everything shooting off of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like
there are many, I think, like descriptors of Surah Fatiha. I mean, like what I'm saying, that you were saying at one time, it's
an opening,
a prayer, and that's the response. Some people say that everything's in the Fatiha and everything else is like kind of a...
I agree with that. I agree with all of that. I agree with all of that.
Explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know...
I agree with all of that. Yeah, but what I'm saying is this, is that with the Quran, the way it works is this. The Quran is a guidance of how to understand how to live life, and the behavior that you exhibit after reading the Quran and submitting to its guidance is you becoming a Muslim.
Yeah.
That's a Muslim.
Fundamentally, Islam and Muslims should not be different.
Not be different.
But if you want to take a realistic picture of the affairs, of current affairs, they are different.
If she was trying to actually help Islam, you know what she would say? She would say, if you want to be a Muslim today, follow the Quran. Yeah. Follow the Quran. Look at the Quran. The Quran stands alone and can be sufficient alone. The Quran needs nothing else. The Quran has hadiths after it. So it helps the Quran. The Quran, if all the hadiths were burned, if all the sunnat was forgotten, if everything was forgotten, the Quran was the only artifact that mankind had, it would still be able to lead mankind out.
Yeah, it would be, because it says that in the Holy Quran.
Because it would still initiate the contact of revelation between man and God. When man would understand and comprehend it, God would be able to connect with him and reveal new meanings of the Quran. Do you get what I'm saying? It would always be changing and interpreting. That's why even with daraba, right? Yeah. Back in the day, it would mean smack. Yes, it would mean smack.
Even this was 60 years ago. The second Khalifa translated as hit.
As physically...
was this... or maybe, 70, I don't know how many years. Less than, not even like maybe 40s, 30s. What is that? 70 years ago, 75. He translated the word as maro, hit.
Yeah.
Usually which means hit. Fourth Khalifa, about 40 years later, 50 years later, 60 maybe, translated as physical punishment.
Physical punishment. 40 years later.
It changes with the time.
It changes with the time. But the thing is
not that the meaning changed, but the context and where we are living today changed. We're not reinterpreting the Holy Quran. The Arabic word is the same. Oh yeah, this was going to say it. God has given protection of the Holy Quran in Arabic. Translation, sometimes they may not ever be a suitable translation. But one trying to say that God has not protected any translation.
Exactly.
He's only protected the Arabic. And it's not that, it's not that we're changing the interpretation of the Quran. It's that in current day affairs, to use the word hit is not what that word doesn't mean anymore.
Yes. And technically, in this rule of law, you can't hit your wife, period. It's assault.
Yeah, in this country, right?
In this country, you can't hit your wife. It's assault. But what you can do is kick her out of the house with the rule of law on your side. Right? Right? You can do that.
Mm-hmm. I mean...
If you want to be technical about it, at that point in time, if it's your house and in your name...
Yeah, a lot of things these days, though, in like American law, like I think the spouse and husband, they're like joint or something like
joint. Even if it's joint, you can sign a prenuptial. Even if it's that point in time, you could say that I live in this house, but I'm going to go and I'm going to go over here. I'm not in charge of any responsibilities anymore. You handle yourself. All the bank account money, I'll handle right now. If you want a divorce, go ahead. We'll split everything.
Yeah,
but right now, I'm done.
I think you could maybe do that. You could, and there's a whole. That's why, like, you know, divorce is like there's a whole proceedings for this and all this and all
Even
that.
in Islam, there is, yeah.
But you know, if you do it everything the right way, you say, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave, you know. But I think nowadays it might become. That's what I'm saying. There's like double kind of standard. It's like, okay, yeah, the women still want all their rights as like a, even American side, they want all their rights as like being the wife, but at the same time they want to like work and do all this other stuff too. Like, so either you choose one or the other. You want to be the breadwinner, then be the complete breadwinner. You want to be the wife. Then, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes, I guess maybe especially nowadays, right, around the world and maybe here, is that like sometimes they favor the woman because the man is always the abusive one or whatever. I mean, this may not be a clear example, but they favor the woman, right? And on top of that, then they also say, okay, treat me equal and do all this kind of stuff.
The injustice. It's an injustice.
I mean, because it's like saying that because in the old days, in like 1800s or something, in American law, like, I think the wife, like there was something like the man couldn't leave the wife, or if the man, I don't know exactly, but like the man owed something to the woman. You can't just like leave her and do something.
If a man was impotent, the wife could file for divorce.
But I'm saying in American law, like a long time ago, like it's not like the man could just leave and so it's because there was some agreement. So like those laws still remain to an extent, I think. But there are also people who earn money too, and then and there's a whole different argument. They don't earn the same amount of money, which may be true, but some of these statistics are also kind of biased because, you know, I mean, like you have to take into account the total number of women working, how much they work. Sometimes you see like in broad statistics, women have earned this much, all women and all men earn this much. What kind of jobs are they working? I mean, they're not.
But honestly, we have no understanding that. For me and you, all we know is it is systematically different in this country.
Yeah.
Maybe this country does have a bias against women.
Yeah.
This country is different than a Muslim country. The thing that they don't understand is that what Muslims do and what these people do are two different environments completely. The way Muslims the way Muslim society works, or a society full of Muslims, it's a completely different premise altogether. So when they try to apply their own lifestyle with Muslims' lifestyles, it's completely different. Like,
what were you saying?
I was going to say that even, for example, with flirting, with over here, flirting, I can do what I want, I can flirt. In a Muslim society, the men and women are so sensitive to the opposite gender. Flirting to them is like an initiation of consortation. Consorting.
Yeah, it's also kind of like a double standard. Well, I guess the men do it too, but it's like, you're flirting and then, but no, I don't want you to. I guess it's more of a double standard on the man, right? Like the man sometimes can, like this is maybe the 90s or 80s, the man can go around do anything he wants, but the woman can't. But now it's like equal.
Yeah, it's just a whole joke now because nobody's doing the proper thing anyway.
But I was going to say about this lady, the light-skinned lady. She also saying something about it's not about poverty. She's using all these like cultural, economic things. But what she was saying, it's not about poverty that people commit suicide. It's the well-off, rich people, something like this. Some
BS that didn't make any sense.
Because we know very well, personally, the people in Pakistan,
they're very well off.
It's the people who were suicide bombers, they're not really well off or not well off. They were children who were brainwashed.
People who are suicide bombers, if you really want to know, the way it works is this.
And it says it's promised in the Holy Quran.
No, it's not.
and she was, I think that's what she was saying, that was it needs to be reinterpreted or something.
Yeah. If she was smart,
it doesn't even mean that.
If you're smart, what the Quran says, don't cause disorder within the lands. Period. Means that don't hurt non-combatants.
And she's trying to differentiate between murder and murder, and murder
and suicide.
A martyr. Since when does a martyr commit suicide? A martyr never commits suicide, right? No.
A martyr's killed.
A martyr is killed.
Not committing suicide. In Islam, first off, this is a rule in Islam. In Islam, the preservation of your body is commanded to you.
Yeah, and
you can't hurt yourself intentionally unless if you're doing it in the protection of others. For example, say for grenades on the floor and you have your soldiers around you. Jump on them with it.
Captain America film.
What?
That's what Captain America, he did that.
Yeah, you jump on the grenade with the helmet, right?
But is that Is that, I was thinking about, would that be allowed in Islam?
Of course.
Because you're protecting other people.
Because you're doing it with the intention to preserve life.
And so you give up one for the preservation of many.
Yes.
Rather than preservation of nobody.
And at that point in time, you're not preserving lives. Intentionally, we know, there's no technicality there. When you're suicide bombing, you're not doing it with the intention of saving lives. You're not like, oh, I'm going to save a bunch of my own people. No, you're doing the intention of hurting others.
Including sometimes your own
And here you go. You want to be really...
And that had...
You want to be super technical? You can't kill in the name of Islam without jihad. You can't commit jihad without authority to Islam. There's no authority of Islam without a Khalifa. You can't have a Khalifa without the Quran approving the Khalifa. You can't have successorship when Khilafat is taken away. Period. Because you need a prophet to have successorship. So tell me, how are you going to have jihad?
Prophet to Khalifa to jihad to... Yeah.
How are you going to have jihad without a Khalifa? Huh? When they abolished Khilafat, their own Khilafat, in 1924...
I think that was like a figurehead anyway.
Think about it. By the time suicide bombings occurred, nobody in the Muslim world could declare jihad in the name of Islam. Only time you could declare any type of military action is in defense of your own preservation of life. Period. Or defense of country. Jihad is specifically only declared among the Muslims with a Muslim authority.
Preservation of your religion. Preservation is in defense of Islam.
But you have to have somebody with authority to declare jihad.
Right.
Who's the Khalifa now?
And another argument, I think the Darkson lady was saying was that anybody can stand up and say, I'm an authority in Islam, and whereas Christianity has tested the time of a hierarchy. The problem is we have a hierarchy.
We have a hierarchy,
and we do have a
in the Quran. There's a hierarchy.
And but it's not our fault that some guy off the street declares himself as a mufti.
So Christians do that all the time. There's no authority in Christian. That's the other funny thing. There is no authority in Christianity.
So Christianity has a hierarchy, but maybe Catholicism also give you that has authority. But what about the other non?
Actually, there is authority in the Christianity. Isa, peace be upon him, did give authority to Peter, but then after that, it just fell apart.
No, but I'm saying the people who don't believe in Catholicism.
Wait a minute, he didn't. Christ was alive after he got crucified. We don't know who he gave authority to.
Who was his successor?
Who is his real... There is no authority in Christianity.
Muslim, or it's at least less than Muslim.
Is there authority in Judaism?
There was a Musa, there was Aaron. That was his brother. They had no successors?
They may
No.
They have.
These guys. David, Salman, was there before?
They were kings.
They were before Hazrat Musa.
They were before, yeah.
Moses.
Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure.
It's Hebrew versus Jews.
It doesn't matter. You wanna know what?
I think they were before Moses.
It doesn't. The reason why is this: we know Isa.
Hazrat Isa was a successor.
He was not a successor. He was a Messiah.
But he was a Jewish in a way. He was a successor in that sense. He was of the same law.
First, let me explain. Listen very carefully. In Islam, if you want to look at it as a Muslim, after you die and you see the history of all of mankind, and you know exactly what happened, Moses was Jewish. The Isa was Jewish. The followers of Isa were Jewish. There was no such thing as Christianity. Period.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
Christianity doesn't exist.
Okay.
You understand? It was an invention by Paul.
But these guys, the Pharisees, it's basically in modern day, because we always ascribe ourselves to Christians. We are in the counterparts of the Ahmadi Muslim community is the Christian. It's like a sect within Judaism that's so different.
Second coming of Jesus Christ?
That's so different that
right?
It's declared a separate religion.
Yes, but we are still Muslim. Yeah. Just as the real Jews, or the real Christians, call themselves Jews. I've met them before. I met these people who call them Messianic Jews. They call themselves Messianic Jews.
And you could argue that they are the right Jews.
Yes, they are.
But now, I was saying that what was I saying? That the dark skin lady saying there was no hierarchy, and actually we do have a hierarchy. But the light skin lady was also saying, so the people who are well off, Suicide bombers.
It's a bunch of bull. It's a bunch of... Any human nature would know this. To kill yourself, you have to be uneducated.
Oh, the hadith. That's what I wanted to say.
Right? You'd have to not know anything about the Quran, because I guarantee the Quran has a very, very strong support for self-preservation. You have a very strong understanding of the Quran, and if these guys don't have strong understanding, the people who send them to kill them, they're not sending them for... They have no authority.
And they never kill themselves, ironically.
Yeah, but they have no authority in the Quran. They have no authority to call who can go for jihad. Who gave them the authority?
Yeah, and then this was the same thing what she was saying. Oh, anybody can declare, but that's the thing, that in
Not
Islam,
anybody can.
It has to be from the top, from God.
Yes, God, according to Muslim belief, according to the Quran itself. First off, Hazrat Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Hazrat Muhammad Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
He's also Huzur.
I know it's Huzur. I was about to say something else.
Alright. Oh, okay, you're trying to say, you don't confuse it. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So, I totally forgot what I was going to say for a second there.
I just want to say one of these things, if you remember.
What was I saying before you do that? Before?
You were saying that they don't have any authority. Who gave them authority to do this? And that has to be from the top. It has to start from God.
Still nothing. Go ahead.
I was saying the hadith is that these suicide people, right? And she was arguing that, okay, forget about the rich versus poor. She was arguing that the murder is actually a murder because, or whatever her argument was, defending what basically she was saying the people who are suicide bombers, they think they're martyrs, and that's no way true because you can't kill yourself. And it reminds you of that hadith that the I think it was a companion of the Holy Prophet, a good companion. He was fighting so valiantly, and then he was on the battlefield like dying, and he was in extreme pain, and he couldn't take it, and he was fighting a religious war. He was really fighting a real jihad, and I think he killed himself. And I think the Prophet said that he's going to go to hell. I think that's the hadith.
I mean, think about it.
But the point is that that's how much suicide is considered.
But how much do we know that the hadith is authentic or not? Think about it. That's another thing too.
Maybe we should look that up. But
yeah, that's just think about it. If you're in that much pain and you know that you're in that much pain and you kill yourself, you may do it out of... That's different. That's not suicide though.
But I mean, what we're trying to say is that's how much suicide is looked down upon. If any of that part is true, like you're in a war, a religious war, doing all this good stuff, and all of a sudden you kill yourself, and it provides no justification for these murderers to just blow themselves up like that and call themselves martyrs.
Yeah.
Still don't remember?
No, they have. I just know they have no authority. See, the Holy Prophet got his authority from Allah Himself. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. I figured it out. The Holy Prophet was the seal of Prophet ﷺ. He was a seal. After that, there is no religion. Period. But there is
law-bearing religion. Yes,
there's no law-bearing religion. Period. But Islam believes that there's going to be a second coming. Right? It's mentioned partly in the Quran. There's a lot of evidence in the Quran too. There's a whole book I had to show someone about it.
Second coming of the Jesus Christ.
Of the Messiah. This is Messiah. The second coming of Isa. And the reason why it's a reformation of the Imam Mahdi.
And the Mujaddid.
And it's a reformation of the Muslims to go back to Islam.
Imam Mahdi is different from the promised Messiah.
It's the same person.
No, I'm saying how non-Ahmadi Muslims.
Oh, they believe they're two different people.
Yeah, they think that there's Hazrat Isa, who's the Messiah. They think Mujaddid, which I don't know what they're thinking about that nowadays, and I don't know what those, but and Imam Mahdi, they say they're two different people, right? They say Imam Mahdi will come and he will kill everybody, and then Hazrat Isa will descend.
Yeah,
it'll be at the same time, but they're two different people.
Yeah, but
it'll happen at the same time. He'll come, he'll kill everybody, kill the pig, kill the one at Dajjal, everything will be hunky dory, and then Isa will descend from heaven and say, "What? Everything's great. Time to end the world. I don't know what their thing is.
I don't know either.
It's kind of funny that it's very similar to Christianity in the sense that it's an assimilation. Like, oh yeah, because the Christians also say that Jesus will come back, right? But they think he got. There are differences between Muslims and Christians. Okay, Jews believe that he died. The difference between Christians and Muslims is that Christians believe that he rose out of the grave.
Yeah.
Muslims
believe that
physically rose out of their grave. They became alive. Muslims believe that his ruh, I think his
non-Ahmadi Muslims.
Non-Ahmadi Muslims believe that his spirit went up, but his physical body...
No, they believe that his body switched and his body went up.
His body was switched.
Yes.
And his whole body went up.
And he's still alive.
Okay, and he's still alive up there with his body.
Yes.
And Christians also believe that.
Yes.
But the difference is that the Christians believe that he actually got crucified, whereas Muslims believe that he never appeared to feel that pain. Because I think that something in the Quran where you can't kill a prophet. I don't know why to believe that, but it's funny how similar it is to Christianity.
I'll help you out.
Both believe that they're up in heaven.
He was crucified.
Where would
we believe he? Sorry, you're talking about what non-Ahmadi believes?
Non-Ahmadi Muslims.
Yeah, they believe he was never crucified.
Yeah.
We believe...
I know what we believe.
He was crucified.
He was crucified.
He was not happy after that.
But he
left.
He didn't die, though.
He didn't die, but he was not happy after that.
Yeah.
He was not... He left that area. He's like, I'm gone. With this paper done, I'm going to the east.
Crucify a prophet, no shame.
I'm done.
They put medicine. I don't know who
Time
it was.
to go.
Saint... not Saint... What they call him?
Peter.
Saint Peter. Yeah. He's a saint, I guess.
Of course. Peter was one of ours.
Yeah.
Peter was a good guy.
Yeah.
Paul was the bad guy.
So he cured him and he left. And this is how the whole thing about, he rose from the grave.
No, he's alive. It's funny how Christians don't believe that he survived the crucifixion, yet he was alive after the crucifixion.
They say he actually rose from the dead. They say that. Whereas Muslims say that
he ascended to heaven.
His spirit got switched. Something. Right.
No, he got switched physically. God went like put one off, put one on, and then took one and flew him to heaven.
And then the body that buried, that's whatever, dead.
That's just some...
I know what we believe. I know what the Muslims believe. I know what the Jews believe.
You mean the unguided Muslims, the ones who are not on the straight path anymore, the Zaleen Muslims, right?
I know what
they call themselves Muslims, but whatever.
I know what the non-Ahmadi Muslims believe. I know what the Ahmadi Muslims believe. I know what the Christians believe. I know what the Jewish people believe. But this part about I know the fundamental difference because this Christian belief of Jesus, Islam, and Muslim belief of Jesus Christ, they're kind of similar. That's why it's kind of like Christian. The main difference is that Christians believe that he died and he was risen and came back alive and went back up. Muslims believe that he never actually got crucified.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a fundamental difference. We
Even
believe
though
he got crucified but didn't get killed.
Yeah, he didn't get killed, but he eventually died.
Yeah.
He's not surviving still. And the reason why it's important is that what that means...
I don't understand how the Muslims believe that. They think the master prophet... And this is such... I don't know the mindset. The master prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then they say the last prophet. They put so much emphasis on the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That they change the kalma? That they change the kalma and they say...
Is not alive anymore.
Yeah.
But Jesus, who's not as strong as a prophet, is alive. He'll come.
Yeah, it's because they just want to... The whole thing is a lot of what's happening...
How did that thought enter Islam?
Oh, because was
it because Christianity?
It was because of us, actually.
Really?
It was because of us, yeah.
What did they believe before?
I don't know.
They had no concept?
No. I was going to explain this before, but I didn't get a chance. A lot of what the Muslim society is now is a direct result from the wars that were happening in World War I and the reorganization of the Muslim territories. So they gave power to a lot of the Bandus that were not really powerful before. Like in Pakistan, right? Have you noticed a lot of the uneducated people have risen to power?
Yeah.
So the people who have no brains whatsoever.
This guy, what's his name? Asif Ali Zardari doesn't have like a college degree.
No, I'm saying even that, but I'm saying even beyond that. Also, even the Molvis who claim to be the representatives of the mullahs, right?
The mullahs.
Who claim to be representatives of Islam, they're not from they were before, they were the dirt of the earth and compared to the people who were there. The righteous people have been chased out or killed.
Ironically.
The Ahmadis who helped them, chased out or killed. And then, even in the Muslim countries, the righteous people were silenced. The Saudis, they were just a bunch of camel jockeys compared to the real people who were there before.
They say, like, before 1930s, like, the Saudi Arabia was very, like, poor.
Yes.
Extremely poor until they found the oil.
Yes.
That's why you can see now, is, don't know, you see the rich people, yeah, they're rich, but if you take a step back,
there's still poor mentalities.
They're still, like, Bandus just becoming, and you've seen this sometimes, really, really rich, like, Bandus.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe about Bandus is somebody who's not very, who can't handle sophisticated lifestyles too well. A complex, sophisticated lifestyle.
They don't understand.
They don't understand. Exactly. So the whole thing is that what I'm trying to get at is that with a lot of Muslims nowadays, a lot of this culture of the Bandus, they had a lot of money, they used that money, and they got advice from other people, and were encouraged to... Did you know, you were probably too young for this, but when I was young, I used to, my mom had a store, and I used to go around. A lot of the Muslims here, it's scary actually, because you probably don't know this. Before the 1990s and the 1980s, a lot of the Muslims that were here were from the nation, were offshoots of the nation.
Not to say anything specific about this area, I think. Is that one of our...
Yeah, okay. So a lot of the Muslims were part of the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
The problem is this, is that the Nation of Islam, a lot of their ideas were
It was a black nationalist.
Black nationalists, but they were offshoot of Ahmadis.
That was
If you listen to their speeches have an ilham from the promised Messiah in them. Do you know that? I listened to Louis Farrakhan. Who's the most recent one?
Who?
The Black Nation leader. Louis Farrakhan. I was listening to his speech, and he was saying, basically, not ilham, it was hadith that we use. And he's saying, and the sun will rise in the west in the future, and blah, 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 blah. He was saying a lot of stuff that we say in our speeches. And then I did some research. A lot of their books were republished books of ours.
Well, I heard this from some person, an elder Jamaat, when I was a couple of years ago. She was saying that there's another elder on our Jamaat whose husband took books from the Jamaat and Prophet Messiah's books, took them, like, scratched out his name, put his own name in there, and somehow, and even the people in our Jamaat right now somehow got, I think his problem, whoever that guy was, he had some issue with the second Khalifa of our Jamaat. He actually brought a lot of these people in, and these people are still in our Jamaat. They're very good Ahmadis, but it came up through him. But then he got dissolved. Like he couldn't. I think he got, like, arrested, or he bankrupt or something. And then those people didn't know what to do, and they found out Ahmadiyya, and they said, "Oh, Ahmadiyya is very similar to his teachings."
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, wait, these are the original people."
That's what I'm trying to say.
But I don't hear anything about she's saying about the Nation of Islam, though.
The Nation of Islam, I think what it is, it was an attempt to make sure we never got a foothold here. And if you knew what I know about them, I have a lot of elders that have told me stories about them. And what they weren't like the Sunnis. They weren't like the Arabs. They were like us. Do you understand?
That's why they even had Elijah. That was like what was that? What exactly is that?
They call themselves prophet. They call themselves Prophet Muhammad. Basically, they call their leader the second coming of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Oh, that's something weird.
And they call him Allah too and stuff like that. They've diverted from the Quran, but they what happened was that they created a nationalistic movement, took people away from the Quran, like I told you people do. That is how you can identify it. That's how you can identify Dajjal nowadays. What they do is they take people and they give them aspirations of this world. But the only thing you gotta do to do that is step away from that Quran. Take the hands of the Quran. Step away.
Step away. But
If that's why in the
Black
Black
had our teachings in it too. Somehow.
Huh?
They had aspects of our teachings as well.
Aspects of our teachings, yes, but our teachings mean
Elijah,
nothing without the Quran.
I think this Elijah guy apparently got arrested or something.
No, there's the original guy who was the leader of the Black Nation of Islam was never he was arrested or something. I forget what it was.
So he got something. He wasn't really like I think many women something like.
He was it was a lot of things, but the whole funny thing about it is that in the very end,
how did he make himself into like such a whatever? Oh.
It's because what was I trying to say? Dajjal promotes that which creates confusion among the ummah, gives money and resources and power to those who further its own agenda.
But why did I know there's some arguments that black nationalists they want to differ from the white man in every respect, right? And this is one argument I heard. So they want to differ in religion as well, and that's why. So the white man has Christianity, and they chose Islam.
When we came in the beginning,
black man. But why did they choose Islam?
No, listen to me. When we came in the beginning, right?
Okay.
We converted people within the jails.
Very, very beginning, yes.
And then we converted people within the streets. And then when these nationalistic movements came, they came when our missionaries had to leave, and we had a gap in time.
And we even converted some Caucasian people too, light skinned, dark skinned.
But because of racism, they kind of it was a problem.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say, my point here is this: after the 80s, there was money being funneled to the Middle East, and then all of a sudden, it was like an explosion of one type of Salafi, Hanafi, Wahhabi school of thought coming right out of Saudi Arabia, funded by America, right? Throughout the entire world. And whatever they wanted an agenda, the people who were the Molvis would be paid by their buddies back home to spout the same diseased teachings that they call Islam, which has nothing to do with Islam.
You're talking about the extremist Islam now.
Yes. And what happened was this. Whenever they say we need to change the kalma, like in Pakistan, right? They change the kalma. And they say, we change the kalma, they change the kalma actually.
Yeah, but did they actually change the kalma or did they change the translation of kalma?
Translation in kalma in Urdu.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if
what is last.
Yeah, prophet. Last prophet. It's a whole additional thing. But the thing is, what I'm trying to get to is this.
Where is the word akhir in there?
Hatam. Even if they want to say it's the last in their own kind, there'd have to be a hatam in there. Yeah. Which it would be a seal of prophets even then still. But regardless,
it's not even in there. Khatam is not even in there.
Not even in there. Exactly.
Muhammad Rasulullah.
Now, they've spread their teachings about too. A lot of their teachings are it's like a disease that's been spreading throughout Muslim communities. And what I'm trying to say is that, for example, Jesus in heaven, I think it's one of their teachings that they implanted. Because I don't think any Muslim beforehand had that concept until they were influencing it.
But like if they asked when never came up in like hundreds of years.
Even the Promised Messiah's time, right? Promised Messiah had the understanding that he was in heaven until God revealed to him otherwise. Ahmadiyya.
That was before the 80s, 90s, 20s.
I know, but what I'm saying is that that's when a lot of these guys were having their diseased thought develop. They were the poor people. What I'm trying to say is they were the poor, uneducated people interpreting Islam. Yeah. Right?
So I'm wondering how it came about. Well, I guess it's the same question of how did this version of Trinity came about? How does this version of Jesus being raised to heaven, how does this all come about? So these are all, and I think part of it is a simulation of Christianity, somehow.
Could be. It could be. Honestly, I have no idea. But what I do know is this: is that a lot of
I don't think anywhere in the Quran do Muslims point to one non-Ahmadi Muslim. Do they point to one verse saying that this is why Jesus is in heaven because? Oh yeah.
Basically, Allah was saying that we ascended we ascended him. Oh. And it doesn't say that we flew him up into heaven. Basically,
so it's like one time an unclear word.
So what I think happened is this, and it's a very smart way. I think I figured it out again. Is that
rather than saying that all prophets will die, all this, all that,
yeah,
disregard that.
it was saying dignify. It was basically it was meaning dignify, but they thought it meant he was flying into heaven. But what I'm trying to say is this: what it seems like is that there are various interpretations.
The Mujaddids and all these people. That's very interesting, actually. But whatever.
What I'm saying is that a lot of these interpretations people have, right?
Yeah.
These interpretations were varied. But at the time the Ahmadiyyat came out, they started standardizing their interpretations to align themselves against the Ahmadis.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That perhaps the interpretations were varied. Maybe there are some Muslims who didn't believe, and the method of communication around the world was not like as it is now. Not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there were some Muslims, this is before Ahmadiyyat. Maybe some Muslims who did believe something about Jesus that was different from him being in heaven. Maybe just like maybe not as much nowadays, but even nowadays, you could say some Christians don't believe Jesus is God.
Do you know?
And stuff like that.
I was reading an article about back in the day. This is a couple 100, I think 750 A.D. There was a whole problem among Muslims, and there was a whole movement against Muslims who take the Hadiths to be greater than the Quran.
Oh.
And what they were saying was that we cannot, we are the only thing that exists in Islam as authority is the Quran. The Hadiths are commentary, a living commentary of the Quran. But the Hadiths are not the Quran. The Hadiths are not Islam altogether. The Hadiths are a result of Islam. Islam is the Quran.
Yeah.
The Hadiths are a practice of Islam is the philosophy of Islam through the most perfect Muslim.
Yes.
For example, we don't say Muhammad is Islam. We say Allah created Islam.
Yeah.
Muhammad is the example we have.
Is the living body.
Exactly.
But a human is a human, you know? A human is a human.
Exactly.
It's not like... Human being is not a concrete, like a book.
For example, in that verse right there...
There's something the Holy Prophet did that may... If someone doesn't understand correctly, it may seem controversial, or he may have only done once. He may not have done 3 times.
Here we go. I got one right here. I'm going to tell you the story the way Christians say it. The Holy Prophet ﷺ stuck his tongue down a boy's mouth.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't think I ever heard of this one.
Stuck a tongue down a boy's mouth.
Okay.
Okay.
The Christians saying that he's trying to... He was...
No, it's authentic hadith. It's authentic.
But I'm saying the Christians interpret this as saying that he was kind of trying to do male-to-male interaction.
Yeah.
Whereas we might interpret it as maybe he was trying to take something out, or...
No, I got it. It's really simple. The boys were dying of dehydration.
Oh.
Actually,
I might have heard about this.
Yeah, so he's trying to rehydrate him with his own saliva. That was the whole point.
Because this was a last resort.
Yeah, and of course, I think in a desert culture that would be something you would do. Think about it. Where do you have the only place you have hydration is your mouth at that point in time? So I mean, there's.
Whereas we believe that he was trying to.
It's not we believe; it's we know that.
No. I was saying that they believe it's a male-to-male thing, whereas we believe that he was trying. What was I saying? That he was trying to. I don't know what I was saying.
It's the point was it wasn't about belief. The verse itself was saying the boys were struggling because they were dehydrated. It was an emergency situation.
Or take something out. That's what I was saying. Yeah, something that he needed, basically.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean, so the point is that when people want to look at Islam, you look at the Quran. The Holy Prophet is a living version of Islam. But at the same time, if the Holy Prophet does something you don't understand, doesn't mean that you look at that and say, Islam I don't understand. If you want to look at Islam, you look at the Quran. Then you can understand. Without understanding the Quran, you can't understand the Hadith. There you go. That is my point. Without understanding the Quran, you cannot understand the Hadith. The Hadith will not be at all available to you. So you first need to unlock the Quran, then you unlock the Hadith.
But you say that the Hadiths are commentary to the Holy Quran.
But you have to first read the Quran.
You first have to at least try.
Read the Quran before you read it.
Okay, that's the point of you should at least first try to read the Holy Quran. If you don't understand something, or you need a little clarification.
Yeah, let me clarify. What I mean is this, is that at first you need to read the Quran.
First start with the Quran.
Read the Quran entirely. Understand the basic principles.
Read slowly,
Think about it. and then out of that get help from the hadith.
But keeping in mind that there are certain hadiths that are general principles
That
that if the
there's no divine protection of hadith. Period.
Yeah. Keeping in mind that if the hadith contradicts the Holy Quran, or even if something doesn't seem, I don't want to get into detail. But if it contradicts the Holy Quran, it's not really valid. There are some borderline areas, but that's, even the hadith I was going to say about, you were saying that, in the Friday sermon of Hazur last week, that if the Khalifa says something
that's opposed to the teaching of the Promised
Messiah, then it's not that it was a mistake or something. It was more about needing clarification.
Exactly. So they may need clarification.
Oh yeah, and I was saying that in this version of Surah Al-Nisa we're reading, it says hit or it says physical punishment. We may not know entirely what it means, and we should just accept it for what it is for right now. Just like if the Khalifa has said loyalty to one's homeland or country, it's part of faith. I mean, he said this in English. The Holy Prophet ﷺ taught this, so we'll just leave it at that.
But even that, you could say that it's a weak narration, but at the same time, you could say that you have no idea if that narration is authentic or not based upon, you have no idea. You weren't there.
Yeah.
You have no ability. There was nothing written in the Quran that says that any narration's protected. So none of them are protected. But the Quran is. And what does the Quran say? Do not create disorder. If you create a pact with someone, if you make an agreement with someone, follow the agreement. If you pledge allegiance to something, right? You have to follow through. You said that you were going to do it, so you have to keep your word. You cannot be a liar.
Yeah.
Lying is against Islam, period.
Yeah.
Right?
And even that thing, loyalty, that can have, if you want to analyze the way we analyze today, it could mean 100 different things.
But at the same time, what does the Quran say? Does the Quran say you can break your oath? No. And as an American citizen, what are you doing? You're providing an oath to protect the country. And the thing is, if you need to, then you are not an American citizen, but then the Quran gives you the privilege to leave.
Even when you sign up to get a driver license, you sign up for the selective service, right? Mm-hmm. You know selective service, right? Well, I think in rare chance you might be drafted or something. Mm-hmm. That in itself is an oath.
Yes.
And you can't just say, "Oh no, I don't want to."
No, the Islam doesn't let you do it. Yeah. I was talking about this with someone else. I was like,
if you're going to attack the Muslims, this and that, this is,
that's different. I mean, even then, if you're a Muslim and
you have an oath on one side, and on the other side you have killing Muslims.
But who's to say that's the other thing too? What about if the Muslims are a bunch of pirates in the sea, right?
I'm saying, but that's another thing. Like, are you killing Muslims because they're Muslim? Or are you killing Muslims because they're just they're creating disorder?
Exactly.
And they happen in
Muslims.
You still may be going to gray area and going to some people.
But even then, you're not killing them. You're ordered to kill them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Even then, you're ordered to attack. You are not attacking because you want to. You're attacking because of your loyalty, because of your agreement. At that point in time, who's responsible? But even then, there are other places. For example, if you're... Honestly, no, there is no exception here. Because even if, for example, say if you're in a situation in which...
What does the Quran say? When a Muslim kills another Muslim or something like that, it's not... That's actually for sure of Israel.
Let me try to explain.
Companions should treat each other as if they're brothers. But anyway...
If a Muslim's creating disorder and they're killing other people... Say if you're a military and you're going after ISIS, right? And those guys are right now the worst of the worst. Or
at least on the face.
They're pretty bad. You watch some videos; they're pretty bad.
Actually, they are they're actually shooting dead bodies.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. So what I'm trying to say is that's.
I was thinking more about some corporate people who get really dirty, but it may not be as bad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At that point in time, you have the ability to defend yourself.
Yeah, you can.
But the thing is, there's another point about this. This is one point I want to make.
They use the word... That's one thing. They use the word Muslim. When a Muslim is a Muslim, it doesn't say, I didn't use the word moment, but well, I guess Muslim anybody who says this.
Now, I was going to say, your allegiance is to military, right? You committed allegiance. So at that point in time, say if the military says we're going to round up Native American people and we're going to systematically execute them. Islam also gives you an option too. They say if you feel as if you are you're in an unjust environment, if you want to break that oath means you break your ties with that community, means you leave. You emigrate. You're not a part of that community anymore. You leave. You go. You emigrate out and you leave the area. You find another country and settle down there, because at that point in time, you cannot stay in that country. The reason why I said this is if you're under orders, right, as a Muslim, and you're attacking a bunch of other Muslims, if you feel as at that point that you can't do this, then you have no privileges of staying in that country anymore. Period.
And the argument against that, saying that, well, it's not so easy to emigrate. Well, I mean, if you really want to, you could.
Yes, of course. You can emigrate. If you feel strongly enough to not do it, then don't stay in the country.
And then I think there's even
defect to some other country.
Another place in the Holy Quran that I think I do remember this verse now that says that, you know, I mean, don't quote me on this, but like something about like if you make some oath that's not really like, it doesn't make any sense, basically, then Allah is most forgiving and merciful. Yeah. Meaning that if you keep some kind of like oath as I'm never going to talk to you the rest of my life, I mean that oath is not, you can break that oath because that wasn't a good oath to start off with.
I mean, there's mercy and forgiveness too.
Yeah.
I mean, Allah's forgiving.
You don't make an oath against Islam, you know what I mean? Like against the teaching of Islam. I'm never going to repart the rest of my life. Well, I decided to go back to Islam, but I can't break my oath because that's part of Islam. No, it doesn't work like that. You can wear part of that. You can break that oath because that oath wasn't, you know.
Well, what I was trying to get to is this: is that Islam. The whole point is Islam is not negotiable. Negotiable. It's not. You can't change it. But the thing is, Muslims, Allah has mercy upon us. Yeah. So if we fall, Allah will help us get back up, and He'll have mercy for us, and He won't. You know, at that point in time, His mercy is very, very large. That's what basically we have a teaching, that Allah is very merciful.
We should maybe talk about it another day, but mercy is a huge thing. It's not like, you can't get into heaven without mercy. It's not justice.
Exactly.
I think, again, you may not quote me on this, but if it was based on justice, everyone would go to hell. You know, if you need mercy to go to heaven. It's not like a point system.
Exactly.
But Allah has His own way.
But no, think about it. When you say mercy, it's not that like everyone at the end of their lives are dedicated to hell. That's not what I mean. I don't think that's what that means either.
What do you mean?
I think it means that throughout your life, God has given you chances and given you mercy without you asking help for you to develop the righteous lifestyle to go to heaven.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Without God, we would all be lost. That's what I think it means. Because I think
because there are certain things, like you could say trials in your life and stuff. Mm-hmm. You could say, "Oh, I'm having a trial. You know, I feel so bad," but that trial could actually be a mercy to help you get back on the right path.
Exactly. Something so, without God's mercy, everyone would go to hell because there would be no ability to develop spiritually.
Mercy in this world and maybe even in the next. Sometimes you say, someone prayed for you. I don't know. There's so many different things, but there is some form of justice in the end, but it's not our concept of justice. Mm-hmm. It's not like random guy would just go to, heaven and commit sin all his life. There is some concept of justice that God knows that we don't know.
So at this point,
we were talking. I think we were pretty coherent. We were talking from the beginning to the end about liberal Islam going into women, which is actually in a way talks about liberal Islam in the sense that. Hating people, not hating people, casting them away, then going back into liberal Islam. I think that's kind of related. The last few minutes we just talked about loyalty briefly and talked about mercy, which is kind of also kind of liberal Islam. We're talking about loyalty. Mercy is something we can talk about later. Do you feel like I do? Like I feel like, I don't know about now, but about maybe 20-30 minutes ago, I felt like it was going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
Now, like...
We're done.
Yeah.
It's 12:50. I mean, we talked about enough. I mean, basically, we start off with the article about liberal Islam, compromising Islam.
Oh, I never even talked about what I wanted last time.
What do you want to talk about?
I was saying that how the West loves to reward liberal Muslims.
They do.
Like this.
They did. We did talk about this.
But, like, I just want to give another example of, like, in this... she's not a liberal Muslim, but Malala Yousafzai, but she follows... The Western likes her ideals, or likes what she's saying, and they promote her to such an extent that she... I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it gives somebody gives so much attention, somebody giving like a Nobel laureate prize, all these things, and I don't know if there was let's say there was a Muslim woman in France who was fighting for freedom of religion in the sense that wearing parda, the West probably would not give her the same amount of attention, same amount of credit. I
figured out in about 10 seconds what the agenda is. It's pretty transparent.
I'm not saying she's a tool, but she may believe, and Islam says women should get educated.
Of course.
But, you know, the way the Western look at it, before the West was like, the West was always kind of like this, but like now it's got even more apparent. I feel like it's like, okay, you know, let's say Muslims, non-Ahmadi Muslims, when the violent Muslims attack us, 9/11, okay, we're going to rebuild stronger, right? Now, it's like so, it's almost like it's like two children playing around. Like, it's like, okay, these violent Muslims, these extremist Muslims, they burned they killed, and they made an attack on Charlie Hebdo, and they have no shame, saying, you know what, you can't touch us. They made another cartoon, Holy Prophet ﷺ, and started this huge propaganda, I am Charlie. Even they didn't even have to do that. They just to kind of say, ha 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 ha, you know, this is wagging something in front of your face. And then same thing with this almost with this Malala Yousafzai thing in a way too, that like they said, ha ha ha, you couldn't kill her, and then we're gonna make her more famous and do this, kind of saying ha ha ha, like jabbing in your, putting in your face and laughing.
Yeah, marginalizing Muslims even more.
Yeah, and all the other videos of this Holy Prophet ﷺ, ha 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 ha. And the Muslims, I guess, they're both kind of like, and you could say two children, because one guy's like the bully, right, laughing. Well, I don't want to say one's bad, one's good, but one's like laughing, and the other guy's getting like all emotional, like a sensitive child.
Yeah.
But it also works the other way too. Actually, I don't know if it really works the other way. At some time, the non-Ahmadi Muslims, the extremist Muslims, may say that, ha, we win, we just killed you, but then they come back really quickly, and so the one side's like a sensitive, and one is like saying like a bully in a way.
So you just gave me another idea too.
2 ideas or one?
2 ideas, 2 really big ideas. So the first idea...
10 seconds, okay.
So the first idea that I figured out really quickly is that they're basically trying to make people disassociate education with religion, because with Christianity, with Enlightenment, they disassociate education with religion, and what did that create? The philosophers. Remember what the philosophers became later on? They started worshipping themselves and assuming themselves as God. It's not that education was dangerous. No. It was the fact that you were thinking that this world is something that you can manipulate like a toy. And through education, not are you doing it for the advancement of men, you're doing it for the oppression of others. That you're using your intelligence to make as much money and resources as you can, so you can amass this wealth. And with this wealth, it's my wealth. I'm selfish with it. I want it. I have it. I take it. I do what I want with it. Or I do a little bit of philanthropy to feel nice, but I'm not really doing anything real to help other people. I take as much as I want. It's for my own zot.
My philanthropy is just like would make, you know, I don't need to feel nice. It should make other people think good of me so they can give me more.
Other part is this.
But that part was about like, okay, you're disassociating Islam
with education. Which it's not supposed to be like that. Islam is learn about the world.
But even though she has never really said that, she's not like some kind of person without a parda like the other lady. She's saying this is Islam.
But the whole point was this. The whole point was this. They're trying to say that because she wanted to become educated, they found a fault in it because they don't like education. The reason they don't like education is because they like Islam. That's what I'm trying to say.
But what is she then?
She is someone who's moving away from Islam.
But she never has that.
She never said that. But that's what they're connoting. Because when they talk about her, they talk about the boogeyman. Who's the boogeyman? The Taliban. Yeah. Right? And when they talk about the Taliban, they're saying, what do the Taliban like? Islam. So indirectly, they say that the education is versus the Islam.
Indirectly, right. But She has never done anything.
She never done it, but she's a tool. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe they want her to do something, but she has never done anything.
The second thing is this. Whenever they do this kind of stuff to wag in front of the Muslims, the reason they do it is because with this they can marginalize more Muslims. I heard about this from someone. I'm just rehashing what someone else said. Okay. They can marginalize more Muslims.
Who said, like an Ahmadi or just...
Ahmadi.
Okay.
Ahmadi and non-Ahmadi, both.
Okay.
You can marginalize non-Muslims. After you marginalize non-Muslims...
Marginalize non-Muslims?
Sorry, marginalize Muslims.
Non-Ahmadi Muslims? Or just Muslims in general?
Non-Ahmadi Muslims.
Okay.
Marginalize them. After you do it, it gives strength to groups like our companies, like ISIS, right? These companies can hire people who are disenfranchised, who feel sad about and pathetic about their lives, who feel like they need something new, and ISIS, with their charisma, quote unquote, will recruit these people to become a part of them, either ideologically or physically recruit them.
It's like ha 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 ha. And
people become emotional.
These people become emotional. They join ISIS, but why would they want people to join ISIS?
Because what is...
all part of the job.
Yeah, what does the Dajjal use ISIS for? Think about it. To destroy Islam. I was reading an article about some guy in ISIS who...
I'm not saying directly they want ISIS to live, but inadvertently the overall agenda is that our agenda is destroy Islam.
Exactly.
You reading the article what?
Some stupid... I don't know if it was fake or not. Some lady claims that an ISIS leader... She was in the Middle East and she was trying to find her kidnapped son, and they fed her some, food, and after that they're all laughing, and she's like, why? She's like, you just ate your son.
What, why? Why laughing? Oh.
Yeah, so, I don't know, it sounded like it was fake, but this propaganda, what does this have to do with Islam? Even if that was true, immediately anybody who picks up the Holy Quran can lift it up and say, this book right here names you've violated so many unwritten laws so many written laws in this book that you've declared yourself munafiq, if anything, by doing that. At least by claiming that.
The thing is that I think certain places where they say they give aid or this and that, I don't know if that's even true at all. Maybe in one to their own people or something.
I don't know. What's aid? That you did some manual labor for me, here's some porridge?
Yeah, maybe like one person. Then again, the media could also be distorting some aspects.
Or they're paying... I have no idea. We have no idea what's happening.
Did you hear recently about this thing that they destroyed idols? Have you heard anything about it?
Yeah, that they destroyed a bunch of idols.
And they said... And you heard that those idols actually might have been fake?
Doesn't matter,
They actually built them so they could destroy them.
Really?
I think one article... Not every single idol, but I think one article said the Los Angeles Times that it's like the stone, when how it falls down, the stone, it doesn't just go like that in a cloud of dust. When stone breaks, it breaks like in pieces and stuff like that.
The dust would imply that stone hasn't settled.
The dust would imply that stone hasn't settled. Okay.
The stone's been there for thousands of years, right? The particles are settled.
Yeah.
Right?
It would just shatter.
It would shatter. It would be brittle. They're saying maybe it's plaster of Paris. I have no idea.
And they have rods in between sticking out, like... I don't know.
Do you saw rods?
I don't know. I think that's what the article was saying. Like, one of them had like a rod sticking out from inside of it.
That's not... That's not architecture from... That's not the way you used to make idols.
But, Just say, I wouldn't be surprised, because they both have their own agenda. That's the problem. Like, you have the West, okay, and then you have the ISIS, who are trying to do something. Mm-hmm. And you say, okay, the ISIS, they want to, have this kind of massive war or something on some kind of land, apocalyptic end. West wants to do this. They want to maybe try to get more support, more money, this and that. Like that video you sent on, I guess that Telegram, if I'm allowed to say that, yeah. It said that article.
The one with M. Bison in it? Going off course?
No.
I'm joking.
How about
Go
that guy who was, I don't know, was it Ben? I don't know what his name was, but his history was pretty good, I think. It's like how...
That one, yeah.
Like how it all came about, but in the end, he sounded very much like a... Kind of like a 9/11 truther. He's like, it's all for the taxpayers and this and that. I was like, okay, maybe it's not quite that, but his history was good.
His history was good, yeah. That's misinformation.
Basically, was that ISIS. There was a power vacuum, and they give people. Then they get the arms, the Free Syrian Army. They're still doing that. Those arms are being given to ISIS, and the leftover military equipment in Iraq. Now, the video might have been a little bit biased because I think, like the video also said, the Chinese are also giving to Saudi Arabians, which are also giving it to ISIS.
Yeah. So I guess our next topic will be extremists.
But
either that or we'll find something.
But, overall, they're all destroying Islam. But inside, you could say this. And I was going to say that this video may not have been... I wouldn't be surprised if someone was fake or something, because like we said before, they condemn all this modern stuff. They use the most modern things in the world to push their propaganda. Right. And you said that there was a video of one person being shot in the head and the blood didn't come out of the nose.
It was fake video.
Yeah.
Everyone was laughing how fake it was.
And it was like
some kid shooting a guy in the head with the gun that doesn't even... when you shoot someone in the head... You can tell if someone got shot in the head. It's not that they just lean forward or their hair goes poof. No, their head, it does something to their head.
I can show you a video afterwards. Actually gets shot in the head. I saw from the nose. Yeah, you always bleed through the nose. So it explodes out and drips down. That's how much force it is. Because it's kind of funny because like they say this and we're Islam, or they say Muslim, then they spout out lies. Lying videos to push the propaganda.
Propaganda is the biggest topic I would want to get into. If I could, it's the thing about propaganda.
And you talk about idols. Was that right to do? Was not right to do disorder? This and that. I mean,
I can talk about that briefly. You want me to talk about if it was right to? Because I talked about someone for a full day about if it was right. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
He was talking because I argued with him, and I was right. Look, first off, the premise was it's not their land, it's not their property.
Yeah, and first of all, they're creating disorder, and there should be
disorder.
The whole premise of them being there
is disorder.
Well, yeah, but how they came into being, I was going to say that how they came into being it's not justified. So how can like
all their actions
downstream actions be justified?
Exactly. That's exactly what I said.
That's exactly
what I said too.
Yeah, I said yeah, and then. I was like, well, he said that specific action. If you just zoom in, I was like, okay, if you zoom into that specific action and then neglect everything else, was it right or wrong? I was still arguing that it still is wrong because, well, first of all, there's another thing about are they really idols or were they just pieces of history? Okay, and let's say that they were idols. Well,
does anyone worship them now?
I mean, yeah, that's another thing, but like. I mean, if they were actually idols,
who did they belong to?
And who do they belong to? And they should have control of the museum. How do they conquer the museum? Oh, it was a war-torn area, but they made more disorder. But the main argument was this: that how can their downstream actions be justified? And I was saying that if you think this is the best way of doing things, of destroying idols. Right? You think there's a hadith of the Holy Prophet killing and destroying idols on Kaaba. If you think this is the best way of doing things, because every true Muslim wants to become the best possible Muslim he wants, right? So then you see idols all over. Right? You could even see big pictures of people
destroy those
in your school. I say destroy those.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I said go destroy some crosses. I said the exact same thing too.
Crosses?
Yes.
Yeah, I said pictures in the school because I was like. Oh, those are idols too. I said, real idols. I didn't think them an idol in your heart.
I said that too.
You create disorder.
I said something, and I'll tell you what I said. First off,
we have similar
the Holy Prophet, the Kaaba, the Kaaba was ours first.
Yes.
The Kaaba was the house of God. Those idols not supposed to be there. Period. Yeah. That was our property in the beginning.
God's property. Yeah.
Yes, Adam's property. In terms of remember God gave it to Adam. Adam spread it to his generations, right? The son of Adam,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It was his property. There was no right for them to be there. That land, right? That land was the dominion of Abraham's wife Hagar and Ishmael. Yeah. That belonged to them. Yeah. They themselves established the rules of that land. Yeah. No idol worship.
Yeah.
Right? One God.
Yeah.
They violated that law. That law still applied to them. Those idols needed to go.
And even the rebuilding the Kaaba, I think, was...
now think, did Muslims go around breaking crosses?
No, like...
Were crosses the biggest idols that they could ever have? Yes, they were pretty dang big idols. They didn't go around breaking crosses.
I honestly watched that video from 2012 by that guy, Nakula. Whatever that. You know the video I'm talking about? They generated a lot of controversy in like 2012.
What?
What's his name? I don't know what the video's name is, but it's the video that generated a lot of controversy. Like, it was like the first anti-Holy Prophet or anti-Islam video.
Are you talking about one where they like it's like a B movie type of material where like they show him with like Hazrat Khadija and
yeah, you know, I think it's the same video.
It's a really crappy quality.
Yeah. Like over there, it's like, oh, you saw a cross on somebody's face, burn.
So stupid.
Oh, fat man or something. I would almost think that kind of video would be funny if they took the whole Islamic context out of it. Actually, they actually dubbed people into it. You could see the actors, they were dubbing on top of the actors.
The actors didn't know what they were doing. Did you know that?
I didn't, and I saw...
The actors didn't know what they were saying either.
But if you look really closely, some actors, they're saying one thing, and their voice changes.
I know, the reason why.
They dubbed on top.
What I'm saying is the actors were hired to do another scene for something else, and they thought they were doing a scene, but they didn't know that they were making fun of Muslims. Yeah. They didn't know it was an anti-Muslim movie.
Yeah.
That was a really stupid propaganda. It was a stupid hit piece of propaganda. Anyway, going back to the idols thing.
Yeah, nobody burned crosses.
First off, it's not your land. Yeah. It's not your property. Who's in authority at that time? The Holy Prophet gave an order for a context. In the Quran, does it say to go around breaking other people's property even if they're idols?
And creating disorder in that sense.
Period. Does it say in the Quran?
Okay, what? Does it say go around and break idols?
To go around and break other people's idols. To break your own idols is different.
Yeah.
To break other people's idols. Does it say that?
No. It says break idols.
Break idols?
That's a hadith, not in the Quran.
The hadith, yeah, the break idols, which make good sense. I was sent here to break the idols, that's fine. That's all fine. Yes, of course. That's fine. But what does the Quran say? The reason why is because we only know what the Quran said. We know what the hadith say. We have a conjecture of what they say. But our understanding originates from the Quran, and then we have hadith. I should have said that to him. Our conversation about Islam begins with the Quran and ends with the hadith. It doesn't begin with the hadith and ends with the Quran. That's a wrong type of Islam. That's not Islam.
Yeah. The main thing is that I don't know how you can justify an action. You can say, I'm all of a sudden I come here, I kill everybody in my entire neighborhood. I go to other houses. I take the stolen money from somebody's house and give it to the Salvation Army. That specific action, is that justified? The money's stolen. Right?
That's a good way to say it.
That's a pretty good example.
That's a really good example. Can you use stolen money for zakat?
Can't come out of my head.
Or give it out. Or how about this? You're done raping someone, right?
Yeah.
But you say salam to them.
Assalamu alaikum.
Right? After you're done.
So it's like the whole picture.
Is that a good action? But the salam's invalid.
The whole picture has to be taken into account.
Even salat is in a context. You cannot read namaz unless you're of a right mind.
Yeah, or right
if you're drunk, you can't read namaz. Simple. You can't do righteous actions in the premise of being impure, of unjust. Hey, this is the premise. You cannot enforce justice if you are unjust.
Yeah, you can't have this double standard.
Exactly.
You steal somebody's money, and the interest is something different. I think there's some if your interest is more than what you, if you get more than what you pay, you should give it to the Jamaat. But that money is interest.
There's a funny story about a woman bathing, right? A woman's bathing.
This is
a funny Pakistani story.
Okay.
A woman was bathing, right? And she wasn't covered. She's completely uncovered. She sees a horse. She's like, "Oh, it's sunnah to ride a horse." She gets on the top of the horse, right? And the horse goes off, right?
Okay.
Completely naked. She wanted to complete the sunnah, right? Yeah. But not the farz to cover.
Yes.
So the funny thing was that to do one thing, she sacrificed another thing, which is her shame.
Which is more important.
Which is more important at the time. Not a horse. the exact same thing. What's the point of destroying these stupid idols? People are starving to death. Go save them.
You're killing people. Shooting them in the head. Shooting dead bodies. And worse for the dead bodies. 1,000 different things are doing wrong. You're able to break the idols. That nobody even worships anymore.
Let's stop. We gotta stop this. End of part 3, right?
Let's just, any concluding statements. So, we talked about in the beginning, the whole thing was basically about liberal Islam, going back to women, liberal Islam. In the last few, I would say 20 minutes, we talked about a little bit of loyalty, a little bit of ISIS, and a little bit of, well, that's also liberal Islam.
So, Ahmadiyyat, women, and liberal Islam.
I think our overarching, what's that?
Ahmadiyyat, women, and liberal Islam. How about that? Liberal Islam and women. How about that?
And this whole thing about ISIS at the end, this is like only for a short segment.
Yeah.
You could even, I don't know, but you could even put in the next one if it matches better. Or it doesn't matter actually. But what I was saying is that
I'm here later than I was last time.
very ironic actually.
We came here next time we are coming straight here. Doing 3 hours and I'm booking.
So the thing is that talked about that. What was I gonna say? We tied in all this stuff. Oh, the overarching theme.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we said again and again. In case you missed this, the Quran is Islam. The Hadith comes after the Quran.
Yes. If you want to talk about Islam,
I think that was the same. That was the same thing we said last time too, in part 2. But we were talking about. This is actually kind of funny. We started with Dajjal. That was part 1, in very general terms. Part 2 was the extremist Muslims, and how you should go back to the Quran, not the Hadith. And this is part 3 about the liberal Muslims, how you should go back to the Quran, and not Western ideals.
Yeah.
And we even gave an example of how to go back to the Quran, or at least our interpretation of it. We're actually being very orderly.
So, women and liberal Islam.
Yeah, whatever.
I think next time we should talk about marriage.
So we're talking about the Dajjal, extremist Muslims, liberal Muslims, and then we've given our perspective the whole time. It's not like we have to talk about our fundamentals. We have talked about fundamental Islam through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Alright, so next time we'll see. We talked a little bit about marriage today too.
We'll talk about it in depth.
Or you say you're going to talk about extremism next time. We talked about that last time.
What should we talk about? Should be arranged marriage versus dating?
I think something will come up.
We'll figure it out.
End of part 3.
End of part 3.
Assalamu alaikum.